Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to A.I.W, the Artificial Intelligence Wrestling Show, where the insight is deep thanks to a little help from a digital friend. The following podcast is a triple threat match scheduled for however many hours. Introducing first, from Mount Olympus, the Honorary Zeus. Next, from the cave at the end of time, Kronus the Bear. And their opponent from the internet, A.I.W. Jeff.
Hello, you're listening to A.I.W FM 97.1. I'm your host, the Honorary Zeus. I'm joined by Kronus the Bear. I'm joking. I'm joking. It's not a radio show. It's a podcast. We're not quite at the Bully Ray level of busted open radio just yet, unfortunately.
Something to aim for.
Yeah, I'd love to have people call in. Get a phone line hooked up. We can have jingles.
Oh, jingles.
Yeah, have like ducks quacking whenever someone says something silly. That kind of stuff. It's all about the production value, I think.
We'll work on that.
How you doing?
I'm all right. It's been a good week.
Yeah, it has. From a wrestling perspective, I think it's been another strong week. Obviously, we are recording on Sunday. Therefore, last night was Money in the Bank.
It was.
So on today's episode, you can see the title of this episode is The Current State of A.E.W. And don't worry, we are going to be doing one of these for WWE and NXT as well. So we're not just picking on A.E.W. We're going to be looking at basically, what the current landscape is of A.E.W., what they're doing right, what we think they're doing wrong. Obviously, it's all subjective. Our opinions probably don't mean anything, but we want to do a podcast, so we're going to give our opinions anyway. And the same will happen for WWE and NXT as well. And I think it's a good thing to do, to look at kind of the past and present, look at some things over time, how things have changed, why they've changed, whether they're for the better or not for the better from our perspective. If you do like the content, like, subscribe, share with all your friends. All helps towards the algorithm. Leave a comment with any thoughts you have on our opinions, whether you think we're talking rubbish, which probably be the case most of the time, I'm sure. But to start with, we are going to do a quick recap of some of the week's events. And we're not going to go over SmackDown because it looked like a pretty inconsequential show. We'll say congratulations to DIY for winning the tag titles.
That was good, at least, yeah.
Yeah, nice callback to take over Toronto, which was nice.
Oh, yes. Very good finish.
And I think just on that note, very quickly, we've gone from having a pair of tag team champions who weren't really doing much, and now we've got Judgment Day and DIY as tag champions. So hopefully the tag team division can kick on from here.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
So we are primarily going to be covering, firstly, Money in the Bank, because it's fresh in the memory. It's a bit of a dumpster fire on social media. Then we're going to cover what I thought was the best A.E.W Dynamite I've seen in months. And we'll go over why we think that's the case. And then we'll smoothly transition into the A.E.W topic of discussion. So, Money in the Bank last night from Toronto, Canada. I thought the crowd was really good all night.
Yeah, classic Canadian crowd.
Yeah, as you'd expect from a non-US crowd. They're mostly very strong. Even the Canadians, I thought they were hot all night. What did you think of the show overall, without getting into any specifics straight away? What was your thoughts when the show closed?
I thought it was good. What I expected to happen happened. So I wasn't disappointed really at all. Matches were good, especially the ladder matches, as you'd expect. But yeah, overall, I liked it.
Yeah, I was pretty much in the same boat. I think it was an amazing show? Probably not. It wasn't a bad show. I thought it was a strong show in terms of what they tried to accomplish. So obviously on social media, there's been a lot of discourse from many things, and we're going to go over. We're probably not going to go over the matches move by move, but we're going to go over kind of what happened, whether X should have happened, whether Y should have happened. And I think it's probably good to start with the elephant in the room, which was also the opening match, the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. I will say this about last night. I thought the in-ring from last night was really good overall.
Yeah, 100%.
The men's ladder match I thought was excellent. I thought it was the best one they've done in a long time. I thought everyone in the match you sort of cared about to an extent. And I kind of get the feeling that might be why there's a lot of discourse, because all of the guys in that match, there's a big portion of people who care about ex-wrestler. A lot of people are high on Jey Uso. LA Knight's obviously really over. Carmelo Hayes, everyone thinks he's going to be great, kind of a future of the company kind of guy. Andrade's just come back. He's a great wrestler. A lot of fans. Drew's in probably the hottest feud in all of wrestling. And Chad Gable's doing the best heel work of his career. So I think there's a lot of investment in everyone involved in the match.
Yeah.
But yeah, the match was great. A lot of great spots. Now, Drew McIntyre won, which a lot of people expected. When we did our predictions, that was what you predicted, Kronus.
Yep.
I sort of went for the swerve ball and went Chad Gable on the off chance they might do something different. The reason I went for Chad Gable is because I basically just flipped a coin in my head as to whether Punk was going to cost Drew in the match or in the cash-in.
Yeah.
I didn't really have an emotional preference on which one that was. I just picked one. So it wasn't Chad Gable, it was Drew McIntyre. And as soon as Drew McIntyre won that briefcase, we knew exactly what was going to happen. And it happened.
Well, maybe not exactly, but to at least an extent.
Yeah, we kind of knew that he was going to cash in and he was going to fail. That's essentially what we thought might happen. Now, the social media discourse that I've seen there's been quite a lot of differing opinions on this, and a lot of differing opinions within the negative category as well. Now, firstly, from my point of view, the Money in the Bank briefcase, I think, is a bit of a tired concept by now. It's been around for 20 years, nearly.
Yeah, quite a long time.
Yeah, I think Edge won the first one, didn't he? And I think with the current landscape of where we are, I think this year, particularly, I don't think the briefcase was really needed for anything. Because if you think about it, you've got Cody Rhodes as Undisputed Champion. And very shortly, we're going to have Gunther as World Heavyweight Champion.
Yep.
Now, I can see both of those people holding their titles beyond next year's Money in the Bank, because Cody's obviously doing his story thing. He's the face of the company. He's going to have a really long reign. I don't think it'll be as long as Roman's, but a year plus, easy. And I think Gunther, with how long he held the Intercontinental title, I don't think they're going to give him the world title and just have him keep it for a bit, because he can do what he did to the IC title to this world title, which is still quite new. We've only had 2 champions so far, Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre, technically, at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So I think if you were going to have somebody win this briefcase and then hold it for a while, what are they going to be doing with it? Like, there's no way. Do you really think they're going to have Gunther lose to a cash-in?
No way.
And Cody lose to a cash-in? I don't think so.
No, it seems like they've got a good idea of what's happening with both the main titles for quite some time.
Yeah.
So I can't see a cash-in upsetting any of those plans at the moment.
No, and like we talked about last time, it's still very difficult from a creative point of view to have it make sense to cash in for a lower title. Unless you listen to A.I. Jeff's economy idea. But
no.
probably a bit too much for modern day creative. So I've seen various arguments for and against. one of which was, well, why didn't they just have CM Punk cost Drew in the ladder match and then have the briefcase on someone else? So I thought what we do is let's go through each member of the Money in the Bank briefcase and imagine what it would be like if they won the briefcase.
All
So,
right.
so Carmelo Hayes, okay, let's say he wins the briefcase. He's just been called up. I think he's doing great. He's great in ring. He seems to be confident in promos, backstage segments, good talker. But he's just got there, and I don't really see him being a threat with the briefcase. Again, this comes back to who the champions are. Cody Rhodes, Gunther. I don't really see the briefcase benefiting Carmelo Hayes, because as much as the briefcase is an opportunity, it can be a vice. Look at Austin Theory. So I don't think Carmelo makes much sense.
No.
LA Knight, well, he's feuding with Logan Paul.
Yeah, it's going to be US title bound.
Yeah, and I think everyone can see that LA Knight is likely to dethrone Logan Paul at SummerSlam. So if you give LA Knight the briefcase, what's he going to do? Just have the briefcase while feuding for the US title? Doesn't really make sense from a TV perspective.
Yeah, it puts the briefcase as a sort of side thing.
Yeah,
Which if you're holding it and cashing it in, eventually you don't really want it to be.
yeah, it's like, why are you going to feud for the US title when you've got the briefcase for any title you want?
Yeah, exactly.
Then we've got Andrade. I think he's ice cold at the moment. Since he's come back, hasn't really done much of anything significant. And again, he probably falls into the Carmelo category. What's he going to do with that briefcase? Is he going to cash in on Cody Rhodes? No. As much as I would love to see a match with him and Gunther, I'd probably rather it stemmed more organically.
Yeah.
And then we had Chad Gable. Now, Chad Gable is probably the only one I could probably see with the briefcase, because he's got history with Gunther. For a start, he's tried to get that IC title off of Gunther many times. Maybe when Gunther is IC champion, he could say, briefcase time. But again, I don't see him winning via a cash-in, especially as heels like to do the cash-in at the most vulnerable moment sort of thing. And my pitch for Chad Gable was that WWE try to find a way to make it make sense for Chad Gable to cash in on Sami Zayn's title. Because he's lost so many times, he doesn't deserve another title shot at the title he desperately wants. But if he had the briefcase, he could use it. But then there's always the argument of, why would you use it on a title that's less than the world titles?
Yeah, that's my go-to with the Money in the Bank case.
Yeah, and it's always going to be a problem. And then we had, who else did we have in the match? I'm missing someone.
Jay
Uso. Yes, how could we forget Jey Uso? Jey Uso, we think, is going to be involved in Bloodline stuff. So, briefcase doesn't need to be anywhere near a Bloodline Civil War if that's what's going to be happening.
Yeah.
I also don't really see Jay as a singles guy in the ring. I know he's really popular.
Yeah, he's obviously over as Rover, but yeah.
I just don't see him as world champion. I just don't.
No, not really. Sadly. Sorry, Jay.
No, sorry, Jay. We love you, Jay. But I think the sooner him and Jimmy can be back as a tag team,
Yeah,
the better.
100%.
Because together they're one of the best tag teams ever. But
the tag division needs them.
the tag division does need them, yeah. So we're left with Drew McIntyre. So I kind of get it that the Money in the Bank briefcase this year, and you could argue, okay, well, why didn't they use different people in the Money in the Bank briefcase? It's like, well, it sort of applies to everyone. I don't think there's anyone on the roster you could realistically expect to cash in on Cody Rhodes or Gunther on the runs they're about to have. So,
Exactly.
could they have just not done it this year? Are they going to stop this concept altogether? I don't know. But
Doesn't seem that way.
No, I can probably see it going on for, and So Drew McIntyre wins the briefcase. So what they did do with the briefcase is they used it to make the most heated story in pro wrestling even more heated. And I saw people saying that Drew McIntyre looks like a loser, looks like an idiot. I really don't see it that way. At no point have I thought, oh, Drew's being buried here. Drew looks like an idiot. I don't really see it that way because you remember SmackDown in Chicago? He
Yeah.
bloodied up CM Punk, who left in an ambulance. I think from a kayfabe perspective, it's perfectly reasonable for Drew to believe that he's not going to be there.
Yeah.
Because he was so beaten up. So, for Drew, to say it's obvious that Drew should have expected him from a kayfabe point of view, I don't think he should have. Because from his point of view, he'd done a number on him. He was taken away in an ambulance. And as far as Drew was concerned, that was that. Now, we all knew he was going to be there because that's just pro wrestling. But we have to suspend our disbelief sometimes.
Yeah. I think there's an argument for Drew maybe just keeping one eye open. But yeah, you'd expect Punk to stay down after that beat down on SmackDown.
Yeah, and I think Drew's just so desperate, isn't he? And I think we spoke about it on episode 2. Go check it out. Cool episode. Where Drew's almost winning the title. He wants to win the title to spite Punk rather than be champion at this point.
Yeah.
Because he's just so obsessed. And I don't know if anybody saw the post-show, they're calling it now, of WWE. It was quite different. It was just kind of like they did a bit of press conference and they did a bit of Jackie Redmond with Big E on the panel. And during the post-show, when they were on the panel, Drew McIntyre basically arrived and wrecked the place. Like he he kicked off, he threw chairs, he elbowed Adam Pearce, Wade Barrett had to drag him away and calm him down. And what I found really interesting was Wade Barrett. I don't know if you've noticed, but he's sort of playing a role in this. He's playing a role of really not liking CM Punk and sticking with Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
And he's sort of slotting himself in as Drew's best friend in all this. And I think he recently revealed that he's cleared to wrestle again. So long term, I wonder if we're going to get some Wade Barrett. I think that'd be great. I really do. I think it'd be great if we could see Wade Barrett again.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Because I've really enjoyed him on commentary, really enjoyed him on panels. He's funny. He talks really well. He shows a lot of emotion. He's got that kind of gritty Northern English accent, which everybody loves. But yeah, so there's a lot going into this. So what WWE obviously did was choose to use the briefcase to further a storyline. And I saw some people saying, well, they should use the briefcase to, develop and new stars. And I don't know if I'd necessarily agree with that because the briefcase, well, historically hasn't always developed new stars. Look at Jack Swagger, for example. How did that go?
Yeah.
And, one of our friends, Pro Wrestling Bites, he did a video recently where he ranked all the Money in the Bank winners from when they won the briefcase to when they cashed in.
Okay.
And I think it was 33, I think there's been in total, apart from last night. And from 33 to about 11, they're all pretty rubbish. There's like the majority of Money in the Bank winners and their cash-in methods combined have not been very good. And they haven't developed new stars. And it's only a few where it's actually worked. Obviously, Seth Rollins being the best one, I think we can all agree. Edge, Carmella's was actually quite good. Alexa Bliss, for example. But on the whole, the Money in the Bank briefcase concept, I don't think has been hugely successful since it was kind of brought into the company. And personally, if you want to develop new stars, I think the Money in the Bank briefcase is kind of a lazy way to do that. I'd rather have stars developed more naturally, like a Braun Breaker, for example.
Yeah, it's a bit of a fast track.
Yeah, because I think what they're doing with Braun Breaker right now is developing a star. And you can see that week to week, and we're going to talk about that match, which I thought was probably a low point of the show for me personally. But yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on the Money in the Bank briefcase concept overall and the decision they made last night. Obviously, lots of discourse. How do you think, or what do you think of what happened last night and the briefcase as a whole?
In general, it's like the other matches that they've just turned into pay-per-views, Hell in a Cell, TLC. It has watered down those concepts
Yeah,
a lot. I mean, Hell in a Cell used to be this massive feud ender that you'd only pull out once in a blue moon, but now it's a yearly pay-per-view. It just, if it went back to being like a match every WrestleMania, a women's and a men's, possibly, but it doesn't need its own show, and it has been watered down.
yeah,
Like you say, it's they've obviously got a plan in place with the two champs going forward, and the briefcase isn't going to be affecting those this year, I don't think. So, what's the point of it?
yeah, exactly. And I think you look at Damian Priest who won it last year, and he got a lot of shit for how long he took to cash in.
Yeah,
And it's like, well, do you want a really long cash in? Do you want to cash in straight away? What is the optimal time to cash in a briefcase?
yeah, someone's going to be unhappy at
Exactly.
some point,
Yeah. Is it
whenever it does
100
it.
days? Is it 90 days? Is it 110 days? And I think that the longer you keep the brief, I can see the problem from a creative standpoint, because if you take Cody Rhodes, for example, he's going to be facing a lot of beatdowns, I think, in the near future, because he's Cody Rhodes. He is Super Cody. Bloodline are going to beat him up. He's going to rise above hate. He's going to be Cena, isn't he?
Yeah,
And there's going to be so many opportunities where somebody could cash in easily, and they won't, because Cody's not losing that title. And that was pointed out a few times with Damian Priest. The amount of times Seth Rollins was battered and laid out at the end of a Monday Night Raw, and there's no Damian Priest. I was like, well, why didn't he cash in? I just don't think it's manageable long term.
yeah, and it's pretty samey every time, isn't
Mhm.
it? So, be good to shake it up with something new.
Yeah, and we've seen cash-ins, haven't we? We've seen them all. We've seen cash-ins at WrestleMania. We've seen cash-ins mid-match. We've seen attempted cash-ins that have been thwarted. We've seen failed cash-ins. We've seen cash-ins announced ahead of time, even though that's a lot rarer because it's more of a babyface thing. I
Yeah,
just think we've seen it all, and I think for something that's a yearly tradition and has a time limit on it, I don't think it can go on forever. I don't. And I think it kind of recently, I think it kind of adds, it's more of a detriment, I think, to the storyline process than it is a benefit.
yeah, it's jumped the shark, as it were.
Yeah. But overall, I thought what they did last night, I wasn't mad about, because from my point of view, this is what everyone thought was going to happen.
Yeah,
And
what I thought was going to happen.
I thought it was just the most predictable, obvious thing in the world. And it happened, because why wouldn't it? Occam's razor, sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. Why complicate it? And in terms of why CM Punk cost Drew in the cash-in rather than the Money in the Bank ladder match, because he wants Drew to be as close as possible before he takes that away from him.
Yeah,
I think that's the point.
build the hope.
Yeah, because the closer Drew is to achieving something and it being snatched away, the more angry he's going to be.
Yep.
And I think that's what they went for. And Drew dropped a line during that his wrecking of the press conference saying, "I know where your family lives."
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty sinister.
yeah, dark.
And this is why Drew McIntyre did not win at Clash at the Castle, because I think Drew McIntyre winning the title ruins this completely. I just think it's
Yeah.
completely pointless, because we are going to get Drew versus Punk at SummerSlam. We're going to get Drew versus Punk in a second match in Berlin, probably a street fight or something.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're going to get the Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood to end the feud. And I think Drew comes out as the winner of this feud overall. They probably win like one match each going in, and then Bad Blood is Hell in a Cell. I think that's where we're going, and I hope that's where we're going. And I think Drew winning the title ruins all that, because he'd have to face Gunther at SummerSlam, which is A, rematch from last year, and B, he'll lose.
Yeah. Doesn't need a title, does it?
No, No, definitely not. But yeah, I thought it was fine. I thought it did what it needed to do from a looking ahead perspective to where we're going. Yeah, I wasn't angry at all. I thought, oh,
No?
that's good. We're going to talk about what wasn't so good in the Seth Damien match. In terms of a few miscommunications, shall we say? But we're going to move on to the second match: Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn. Now, this we both got this one wrong. So I'm 0 for 2 so far, and Kronus, you've got one right and one wrong predictions wise.
Yep.
So Braun Breaker challenging Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title. We both said to this one we weren't sure how they were going to do this, because obviously Braun Breaker is hot stuff at the moment in terms of hot property. He's on the up. He's making a big impression. He's over with the crowd organically. He's incredibly physical, fast, great on the mic. Very young. He's only 26 years old.
Yeah, he is, isn't him?
He's got the world ahead of him, and we were discussing whether is it too soon for him to win the IC title, and we sort of said maybe, but screw it, let him have it.
Yeah.
But then you've got Sami Zayn, who is the underdog from the underground, and let's not forget he beat Gunther at WrestleMania. So we have to assume that if Sami Zayn can beat somebody like that on that stage, having reigned that long, we have to assume that Sami is no pushover.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was just thinking to myself, what are they going to do here? How are they going to do this? But Sami ends up winning with one haluva kick on Braun Breaker, which I wasn't really a fan of. I thought it's okay for Braun to lose, but it just kind of, it was a great match leading up to that. I thought it was really good. But yeah, it kind of just ended, didn't it? With one haluva kick, and that was it. See you later.
Yeah, it's a bit out of nowhere. Could have made beating Braun a bit more of a challenge, potentially.
Yeah. Maybe kind of like a lucky finish or a roll up or something, or a fluke victory. Which is, you know, something that Sami Zayn with his character is perfectly justified to do.
Yeah.
He, you know, I posted a tweet during the match saying at the early start, this was giving me like Cena Lesnar SummerSlam 2014 vibes. You know, the "Let's go Cena," that one.
Yeah.
Oh God, bless that kid. I sort of kind of got those vibes because Braun was just killing him for
Yeah,
a
battering.
big portion of the first match, and then it started to kind of become an even contest. And I thought, okay, that's out the window. And I was thinking to myself, you know, when they were kind of building this up, we had Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser floating around.
Yeah.
And Ludwig Kaiser got injured, didn't he, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, minor.
I
But
want,
enough to keep him out.
yeah, broken rib, I think. So yeah, nothing
Yeah.
too bad. I wonder if he was supposed to be part of this match to take the pin, perhaps
Maybe.
before his injury, because obviously, I mean, we've had so many IC triple threat matches recently. But if you had it as a triple threat match with Braun, Sami, and Ludwig Kaiser, and then you can have Braun dominate, and then you can have Sami pin Kaiser, then you kind of get the desired result that they want, which is Sami keeps the title, Braun remains strong. But having said that, if Kaiser's injured, there's got to be a better way to protect Braun than what happened.
Yeah, you can always have a no contest.
Yeah.
I think that probably suits both of them, really, in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to clarify, I don't think Braun's buried at all. Braun will be fine.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that it's Sami Zayn, you know, it's not as if he lost to Carlito or anything.
Yeah. Oh,
Right,
poor Colin.
oh, I know. Sorry, Carlito. You're cool.
That's not cool.
That's not cool, no. But he's not Sami Zayn. I'm confident saying that. But I think Braun will be fine. I do wonder what's next for Sami Zayn, IC title wise. What do we think? I mean, there's no real direction at the moment for Sami going into SummerSlam, is there, that we've seen?
No, I mean, unless they're just going to keep feuding with him and Braun.
Potentially. But then we kind of get into the stage of Chad Gable where he just kept losing clean. It's just like, well, you ran out of opportunities. Unless they do a
Yeah.
multi-man match with Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. Maybe that was the plan all along. I don't know. But I think Ludwig Kaiser probably has some involvement. And obviously, we've always got Sheamus' story of never winning the IC title.
I do think they're going to put it on Braun sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'd hope so. Or whether they put it on Sheamus to, get him to be a Grand Slam champion and then have Braun beat Sheamus. Either way, I think Braun winning that title eventually has to happen because he's got that dog in him, as we all know.
He does. Someone let that dog out.
Someone let that dog out. And I think Braun could do with that title similar to what Gunther did, which is kill everyone he defends it against. And I think that's what you should do.
Yeah. Seen some really good mid-card reigns recently. Got Oba down in NXT.
Obafemi, yes.
He's doing really well.
He is incredible. And we're going to talk about Obafemi a lot in a couple of weeks' time when we talk about NXT. NXT Heatwave tonight, by the way. Obafemi versus Wesley, which should be a banger. So yeah, looking forward to NXT Heatwave. We might touch on it in the next episode. At the moment, like I said in episode 1, we're not going to touch on Collision and NXT as much, just because it's a lot of content for only 2 episodes a week that we're currently doing.
Yeah.
But maybe in future with more time, we will start covering. But we might touch on the NXT pay-per-view because it's a pay-per-view, especially if anything newsworthy happens.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. Mid-card titles, I think, especially the IC, you think of where it was under Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Who did we have as IC champion? This is no disrespect to the people involved, but we had it was Ricochet before Gunther, and much as we love Ricochet, title didn't really feel that important.
No, sadly.
Shinsuke Nakamura, same, great wrestler,
Yeah.
just didn't really feel it. But I think when we were about 6 months into Gunther's reign, my God, it just felt different.
Yeah, he really elevated it.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that obviously the US title still needs some work.
Yeah.
I can see why they put it on Logan Paul. I think as long as sorry,
marketing.
Yeah, marketing. Yeah. So as long as LA Knight beats him at SummerSlam, which I'm 99% sure he will,
Please.
then please God, then hopefully LA Knight. I mean, obviously LA Knight, with all due respect, I don't think he's at the level of Gunther in ring, but I think he could still do a good job with that title. He's obviously one of the most charismatic people in the business.
Easily.
And solid in-ring worker. He can have good matches with the US title. Him and Carmelo Hayes is obviously going to be the first stop, I think, which I'm fine with. But yeah, I was a little bit down on Braun versus Sammy for that reason. What about you? You kind of feel the same?
Yeah, I think it was all right. Gave Braun a good enough showing, but yeah, he was beat a bit too easily.
Yeah. We'll see what happens next. Maybe Monday Night Raw will give us something that we weren't aware of, or maybe they'll turn it in a direction that makes us kind of rethink things, but we'll see.
We will.
Next up. Oh boy. Okay, so this was the World Heavyweight Championship match. Damian Priest defending against Seth Rollins. Stipulation here, or more of a gentleman's agreement, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So if Priest wins, Seth cannot challenge while Priest is champion, which will be about 28 days. So not to worry there, Seth. And if Seth won, then Damian Priest would have to leave Judgment Day. This kind of excited me because I thought, okay, we've got Judgment Day implications here. We've got a very small Seth implication. We've got the potential of Drew cashing in. We've got CM Punk. There's a lot of moving parts here. And I thought the in-ring match up until the finish, I thought was good. I thought Seth looked really good after surgery. Priest, I think, is really underrated in the ring. And I do think he's had a pretty good reign, considering people's thoughts when he won the title.
Yeah,
because he wasn't really seen as a world champion guy, was he?
he wasn't. No, but yeah, he's done well.
Yeah, like if you imagine him before he won the briefcase, you'd never think him as world champion. Then he won the briefcase, and you're like, ooh, okay, maybe. And I guess you could argue that the briefcase did him a favor because it's kind of put him in the spotlight. So maybe the briefcase does have some value, but I'm still sticking to my guns from earlier. So yeah, I thought it was fast paced in the beginning. And then we were kind of just waiting for the inevitable, weren't we?
We were. When was it going to happen?
When was it going to happen? And then they kind of trade attempting falcon arrows or broken arrows. And then Seth eventually hits his falcon arrow. And the referee counts to 3, and Damian Priest doesn't move. And the referee kind of just stops at 2, realizing something's happened, and then he just kind of going the best he could do. What's he supposed to do? Now, for me, I think one of 3 things happens here. Either 1, Priest had his bell rung, and it was just temporarily out of it. 2, Drew McIntyre's theme was supposed to hit maybe during the count. Or 3, I noticed that when Seth hit the falcon arrow, the ref started counting while he was covering him. So I wonder if Damian Priest missed the first count. So when the ref was about to hit 3, Damian Priest thought it was going to be 2.
Possible.
It's got to be one of those 3 things. And you could see, did you see the look on Priest's face when the match was over? He looked devastated. So obviously everyone was kind of confused. I was confused. You were confused. Like, what the hell just happened? Seth basically won that match as far as we could see. So then Drew McIntyre's music hits. And obviously he comes out, he cashes in. And at this point, we don't know if the match is still on. Because, like, what? Is it making a triple threat? Has somebody won this match? What are they going to do? And it turns out, yeah, he was cashing in to make it a triple threat match. And you know, there we had Drew cashing in like he promised, like we thought he would. And then after a few back and forth with Seth and Damian, out of nowhere, here's Charles Montgomery Punk.
Here he is.
Which, again, we all knew was going to happen. So he comes in and he just starts wailing on McIntyre, drags him outside, throws him over the barricade, goes crazy on him with a chair. And he's just absolutely wailing on him because of, obviously, what he did, what he said about his wife and his dog. And it just kind of escalated the feud. And it made sense. It made sense. So Punk's done with Drew. Drew back in the ring. And then Damian Priest with the South of Heaven chokeslam. And Damian Priest retains. So when Drew cashed in, we knew Drew was going to fail, but we still weren't quite sure who was going to win out of Seth and Damian. Now, we both went with Seth, didn't we?
I think so,
predictions, yeah. And A.I. Jeff went with Damian, so Jeff wins that one. And also worth noting that Jeff went for Sami Zayn as well. So shows what we know. And I think Jeff went for Drew McIntyre. So Jeff is 3 for 3. And I am 0 for 3. So I've got none out of these predictions correct so far. Why do we even have a podcast? We know nothing. We just let Jeff do it. Like, just get him to do the podcast. I'm sure he can figure it out.
Maybe we should for one episode.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So Damian retains. I was annoyed because I think as unfortunate as the botch was, it did sort of ruin it a little bit.
Yeah.
And Triple H said in the press conference, you know, it's easy to focus on the negatives and we have to look at the great Damian Priest did in this match. And I think that's true. But, you know, pro wrestling companies are held to such a high standard because of how much money they make that those kind of things are always going to stand out.
Yeah.
It'd be the same in A.E.W. It'd be the same in NXT. It's just one of those things. And I agree. I think Damian Priest had a great match. I think he's been good. I've got no problems with him retaining here. Apart from that, I would have preferred Seth versus Gunther as a bigger match at SummerSlam, but here we are. But the other reason I was kind of frustrated was that there was no Judgment Day involvement here at all.
Yeah, nothing. Especially after the look Finn gave Priest.
And they were shown backstage as well, weren't they?
Yep.
They were playing 2K24 on the PS5 that Liv bought them.
Yep.
But there was no Finn, no Liv, no Dominic Mysterio, nothing at all. And that was a bit of a miss for me. I thought, because all that talk about if Damian loses, he's leaving the Judgment Day. And this kind of brooding tension between him and Finn with Liv being involved. I think tonight would have been a good place to not pay it off, but at least advance it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm surprised there was nothing.
Yeah, even if Damian retained, you could still do something. Backstage segment or something instead of all the goddamn adverts.
Yeah.
But yeah. But the one thing I did sort of like I didn't really see this coming, and we probably should have, is that Seth Rollins' reaction to CM Punk, because don't forget, CM Punk didn't just screw McIntyre, he screwed Rollins as well.
Yeah. Yeah, he was not happy.
He was not happy. And I think it's a nice callback because when CM Punk returned at War Games, the two people that were visibly upset were Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins.
Yep.
And here they all are again. A lot of people saying, oh, is this going to be a triple threat at SummerSlam? Definitely not. Definitely not. It's going to be Punk and Rollins at WrestleMania. Whether that's for a world title, probably not. But again, I think with the level of real life heat there is there, don't need a title. Just have a marquee match at WrestleMania. I'm fine with that. So Seth probably to set something up in the Royal Rumble. But yeah, Damian Priest retains. It was just so chaotic. It was just a chaotic mess. There was some good. And I said on Twitter about the whole show, there was some I loved about this show. There was some I was baffled by. There was some where I laughed in disbelief. And we'll get to Tonga Loa later on. It was just a very weird show. And I think it's been the most polarizing show I've seen in a long time, because I've seen 10 out of 10 reviews, 0 out of 10 reviews, and everything in between. It's been crazy. But it definitely wasn't a boring show. You can't argue it's not a boring show. It's definitely a newsworthy show. I was entertained. I was thoroughly sports entertained throughout because it wasn't boring. It gave us loads of stuff to talk about.
Yep.
And talking about wrestling is what we love doing. And, I'm not in the business of being upset or angry at pro wrestling unless it's the learning tree. And even that I thought was actually not as hideous as it normally is. So it's going to be a very positive episode, this one, I think.
Hey.
Next up, was this the John Cena thing next?
I think John Cena thing was before.
It was before. Oh, we missed John Cena. Okay, let's just do a switcheroo. So John Cena. Now, when he came out, I thought he was going to do a stereotypical, I think Canada deserves a WrestleMania. Because he did it in London last year, didn't he?
Yeah, trying to bait the local government.
And then he just came out and said, hello, everyone, I'm retiring. Like, what?
Well, you could see it when he brought out his little piece of cloth, towel, whatever it is.
Yeah. His little,
the last time was now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I didn't catch that at the time. At first, I thought he was retiring as of now, but
yeah,
it turns out he was announcing a retirement tour, so to speak. And John Cena, always been fantastic talker, very believable in everything he says. And he's always great with the crowd. It was quite sad because obviously you and me have grown up with John Cena, love him or hate him. Yeah. He's always been there, and I think his consistency is, to stay that relevant for that long and be top of the game, and all the stuff he's done for Make-A-Wish, and he's gone into Hollywood and he's doing all this stuff, and he's got to be commended for just being a great guy in general, even outside the wrestling ring. And he eventually just said that the Royal Rumble will be his last Royal Rumble. He mentioned Elimination Chamber, and he said WrestleMania in Vegas will be his last. For those of you who didn't see the press conference he did, which was really funny, by the way, he basically clarified that he will be wrestling or taking part January through December next year. 30 to 40 dates, he said, which is a good 9 months of the year.
Yeah.
So we're basically getting a full-time John Cena next year. And they asked him, do you want title number 17? And he, in a word, said yes. And I think he mentioned that he knows that he's at the bottom of the pecking order at the moment. So, he says he can use things like the Royal Rumble, the Elimination Chamber, Money in the Bank, for example. So
Yeah.
he said there are ways that, he can potentially get number 17 in terms of world title. On that topic, Kronus, who do you think he faces at WrestleMania next year?
Very good question.
I've seen a few names thrown out there.
Yeah. Go on.
I think, well, the one for me will be Randy Orton. Just because it's
Okay.
there. They both want one more match kind of thing.
Yeah, the classic retirement match.
Yeah, as much as we probably, and the thing is, they face each other so many times, right? But they never faced each other at WrestleMania.
They not?
I don't think they did. Not one-on-one.
Okay.
I might be wrong. I might be thinking of something else, but I think I saw that they haven't actually faced each other at WrestleMania. The other name was Cody Rhodes, which I'm probably more on board with Randy Orton, but
Yeah.
I could definitely see it because, you could have Randy Orton eliminate John Cena from the Royal Rumble, set up a match at WrestleMania, get that out of the way. And it's in Vegas as well. Big time stuff. You draw money. But yeah, I think Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton are the two kind of most popular choices I've seen for Cena at next year's WrestleMania. I can't really think of any other options really at the moment, but I guess we'll see how things develop.
Randy's his classic rival, isn't he?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
does make sense.
Yeah. And obviously they're both great storytellers, so it might not be an in-ring classic, but it's not always about that. You can have one or two matches that are kind of more built on history. I'd be down for it. I would be down for it.
Good.
So that was John Cena. Women's Money in the Bank. I thought this was the best thing on the show.
Yeah,
by
definitely.
a distance. This was a car crash in the best possible way, imaginable. Man, these ladies went absolutely crazy.
They went ham.
They did go ham. And I want to give a shout out to Zoe Stark because obviously she's got a lot of criticism recently for not being Dakota Kai for some reason. The crime of not being Dakota Kai. And I thought she bumped her ass off in this match. And
Yeah, she really did.
she took some heavy bumps, and that driver she took towards the end on the bridge ladder.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And I think she's one of those, isn't she? She hits hard. She's a great wrestler, and she can bump, and she's not afraid to do that crazy stuff. And I think ultimately that's why she was in the match. We all knew she wasn't winning, and I think it would make sense for her to win. But I think the match started off a bit sloppy, but it kind of lent itself to it because it's just that chaotic environment where anything can go wrong.
Yeah.
I thought Chelsea Green and Tiffany Stratton got great receptions from the crowd when they came out. Lyra Valkyria, she got the people kind of singing along to her theme a little bit, which is nice.
Yeah, good to see.
Yep. I think she's going to be really good. Who else did we have in the match? Naomi. Naomi's, she's an old hand. She's very reliable in situations like this, very experienced. Again, don't think she was winning. We had Chelsea Green, obviously the hometown girl. Came out in her Trish-inspired outfit with the Canada dress, which was awesome. Zoe Stark, obviously. Io Sky, last year's winner, looking to go back to back. Again, I was kind of wondering whether we were going to get some interference from Damage Control here, but we didn't. And before we start the kind of analysis of what happened in this match, I think going into this Money in the Bank pay-per-view, we thought it was going to be really overbooked.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be really underbooked. Because in the men's match, we were thinking we could get Logan Paul costing LA Knight. We could get Uncle Howdy costing Chad Gable. We could get CM Punk screwing over Drew McIntyre in the match. We got none of that. I thought we'd get at least one. We got none. It was just a complete clean sweep, normal ladder match. And then in the women's, I thought we might get some Damage Control. I thought we'd get Nia Jax to help Tiffany Stratton. Because they've been kind of partnering up recently. We got none of that either. I don't think it took away from the matches at all.
No.
I was just expecting some shenanigans, but no shenanigans. Yeah, a lot of sloppy bumps in this one. I think Zoe Stark had where she tried to do her, she kind of bounces off the ropes and does a little corkscrew somersault.
Yeah.
And she sort of missed and hit the head on the back of the ladder. And I knew she'd get a lot of stick on social media because of that, because people already hate Zoe Stark apparently.
Nah.
But yeah, I thought there was great use of the ladders. Obviously, the bump of the match came from Chelsea Green.
Yeah.
And I was worried because you saw Chelsea Green and Tiffany Stratton set up those tables. And they were kind of a bit unsure where to place them.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, we know what's happening there. And they don't seem too confident on placing those tables. And then inevitably we get to the spot where Chelsea Green is atop the ladder. And I think, was it someone on the other ladder kind of just pushes their foot against her ladder? That's what happened, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
And then Chelsea descends and flies beautifully through both tables, I thought. It was very well executed. Crowd goes crazy, even though it's the hometown girl, but they'll always pop for someone going through a table, no matter how much they love them.
Yep.
And most importantly, Tiffany Stratton wins Miss Money in the Bank.
Yes.
Which I think we can all agree was the right decision.
Yeah, definitely.
I probably would have been okay with Chelsea, but as we said on the last episode, Tiffany is the more realistic world champion out of the two.
Yeah, at the moment, for sure.
And it is indeed Tiffy time.
About time.
Yep. And she did say in the press conference that she will be having a pink briefcase.
Yeah.
Which I'm very happy with.
Her priority is making it look, I can't remember her exact wording, but it would look great.
Yeah, and I think she's going to do fantastic things with the briefcase. Obviously, the women have 100% success rate on the cash in, and I think unlike the men, I think the women's championship picture is probably a bit more susceptible to a Money in the Bank kind of arc.
Yeah, it's a bit more open,
especially on the SmackDown side. I think the Raw side, you're probably going to have Rhea come back and do that, and maybe Rhea will keep it for a bit longer. But on the SmackDown side, you've got Nia Jax versus Bayley at SummerSlam. I think I don't really see Bayley holding it for too long, really.
No, I don't think she needs to.
No, she's done everything. She got her moment at WrestleMania, beating Io Sky, who betrayed her, etc. I wouldn't be surprised if Tiffy cashes in at SummerSlam, just like Io did. But I guess we'll find out in less than a month's time.
Yes, we will.
They fly it by these pay-per-views, don't they?
Yeah.
God damn. So that was women's Money in the Bank. I thought it was the best match of the night. It was just great to watch. Best women's Money in the Bank match ever, and it's not even close.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
And if they do continue with this kind of staple of making it a yearly pay-per-view, then at least I hope the standard of the ladder matches is as good as they were this year.
Yeah. At least we can ask for.
Yep. And then we had the main event, which was the new Bloodline 2.0. And I think we were curious whether we were going to see Jacob Fatu as part of this team, and we did.
We did.
So Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and Jacob Fatu versus Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens. I think the fact this was main eventing probably gave people a bit of false hope over certain things happening,
Yeah.
none of which ended up happening.
Hmm.
So I was thinking, I wasn't expecting Roman tonight. I thought that would be, I didn't think it would make sense tonight. I thought we might get Jimmy Uso. I thought we might get Hikuleo or Longa Tonga. Yeah. I was fun fact. I was talking with Pro Wrestling Bites on Twitter, and we were saying, "Oh, what if we get Longa Tonga?" And somebody commented, going, "Who the hell's that?" And I just had to say, "Oh, he's Smaller Tonga's cousin." And we just kept going on, creating this like fictional dynasty of Samoan wrestlers, waiting for someone to notice we were just having a laugh.
Brilliant.
I think we got to about 3 or 4 different names before somebody was like, "Wait a minute, these aren't real." But no longer Tonga. Can we talk about Tonga Loa?
You can go on. I know you've been waiting to.
I've been waiting. So when Tonga Loa first signed, I thought, oh, I don't know this guy because I'm not a New Japan buff or anything. And all I saw when Tonga Loa debuted on social media was people laughing. And I was like, why are people laughing? And then I saw a compilation of his, should we say, greatest hits. And I thought, oh, God, this doesn't look good. And then you remember his debut? He botched that because he couldn't get out the ring quick enough.
Yeah.
And the referee had to, fake a seizure to get out of the ring. And then last night, so we had a ref bump towards the end of the match because we all knew that Solo Sikoa was pinning Cody Rhodes. Again, this came as a surprise to a lot of people on social media and upset a lot of people. And I genuinely don't know why. Again, it was very predictable because they are going to have a main event at SummerSlam, which doesn't sound great on paper, but if it facilitates the return of Roman Reigns and the original bloodline, then whatever, I'm for it.
Yeah, I think that's when they bring Roman back.
Yeah. So Solo pinning Cody Rhodes makes sense because then it's justification for a title match. It's just Pro Wrestling 101, isn't it?
Yep.
It's like an eliminator match. It's just like an eliminator match, only it was 6 men instead of 1-on-1.
Yeah.
So there was a ref bump, and that's when I thought, oh, Longa Tonga, or maybe it's another one. Because I think when Tama Tonga showed up, we weren't expecting Tonga Loa at all.
No.
And then I think Kevin Owens is looking to do a pile driver, isn't he, or something? And Tonga Loa gets in the ring, and he goes to do a low blow, and he just completely misses. To the point where Kevin Owens doesn't even react. And then he moves forward a bit to do a proper low blow, and he ends up punching Tama Tonga in the head as well.
Yeah.
I was just like, how do you screw up a low blow twice after having screwed up your debut, and you've basically done nothing since you've been in this bloodline? I just think that they keep talking about how dangerous this bloodline is, but he's just so funny. I just don't find him threatening at all.
Yeah, not gone too well.
No, at least Tama Tonga is, so far, I think Tama Tonga's been a solid, he hasn't lit the world on fire, but he's been solid in ring. He's shown a mean streak. He looks intimidating, fine. Perfect kind of henchman style character.
Yeah.
I just don't get that with Tonga Loa at all. And
no, he used to be Camacho, I think it was.
Yeah.
Unico.
Yeah, I've seen when he came, it was like, oh, he's Camacho. I was like, oh wow. But yeah, it's just not gone very well for him, has it?
No, it's not a good start.
No.
What they really need to do is get him in tag matches with Tama Tonga.
Well, yeah, that's what they were. That's what they were known for in New Japan, wasn't it? Gorillas of
Yep.
Destiny.
Let them cook.
Yeah, I mean, if it maybe it's a bit like the Usos, where they're kind of, you know, I mean, Jey Uso I think is an okay wrestler. I just think he's better in a tag team. And maybe it's the
Yeah,
same with Tongaloa and Tama Tonga. Maybe they're waiting for a longer Tonga to come in.
maybe.
But now we've got the comedy out of the way. I thought the match was all right for what it was. It was nice to see Jacob Fatu's in-ring debut.
Yeah, he's going to be good.
Yep.
Whisper in the wind.
Oh, incredible. Yeah, I thought he looked really good. No sold Randy's apron DDT, which was
Yeah, it was
quite
a good moment.
cool visual. Yep. Kind of making Randy realize who he's messing with. I really hope that we kind of get, I think I said to you last night, didn't I? I hope we get Kevin Owens versus Jacob Fatu or something at SummerSlam. Just let those two kind of kill each other for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really good. But eventually, yeah, the match sheet was what it was. There was a bit of chaos at the end with the announce tables. You know, they I think they shield bombed. Was it Solo they shield bombed? They shield bombed someone.
Yeah.
And eventually we get back in the ring. Solo delivers Samoan Spike to Cody Rhodes. Only took one, and then the referee gets back in the ring. Referee took a pounding, didn't he?
He really did.
Yeah.
He got
Yeah, referee got clotheslined into a corner and he thought, oh, I'm going to roll out the ring and rest against the steel steps. And then he gets crushed against the steel steps as well.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Poor ref.
But yeah, eventually he finds his way back in the ring, counts to 3, 1, 2, 3. Solo Sikoa pins Cody Rhodes. And we are heading for that main event at SummerSlam. I know it doesn't sound too appealing to have Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa and Damian Priest versus Gunther. But I think both matches are going to get us to where we need to be, which is Gunther as world champion and Roman Reigns returning to probably the loudest pop you've ever heard. In I think it's the Cleveland Browns Stadium, I think, SummerSlam.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to get to where we need to go, even though they don't look as appetizing on paper as, say, for example, Cody versus Randy and Seth versus Gunther. But add in Drew versus Punk, Logan Paul versus LA Knight, Bailey versus Nia Jax. Still kind of unsure on the Rhea situation. I think SummerSlam will be decent. Solid.
Yeah, shaping up well.
Better than last year's, hopefully. Last year's wasn't too good. But yeah, that was Money in the Bank. I thought I wasn't angry at the show. I wasn't spamming it on Cage Match. Oh God, Cage Match. I saw so many people saying, look at what it got on Cage Match. Look, guys, who cares? Stop using Cage Match for anything, please. I know
same as Meltzer. It's just someone's opinion.
Yeah, it's a very small amount of people's opinions, and everyone's wrestling opinion is the same as everyone else's. You either like it or you don't.
Yep.
But I wouldn't look at a Cage Match rating and say, I don't need to watch this show. I know how good it was.
No, and I never look at any person's rating. I'd watch them. I listen to them.
Yeah.
But I'll always have a look and see what I think.
Yeah, I mean, wrestling is one of the most subjective things in the world in terms of sports, and because it's scripted television, and it's, there's so much to critique, from, performance to promo skill to booking to length of championships. There's so much to critique, and everyone's going to critique things differently. And, I will never criticize anyone for their opinion on wrestling. I'll happily debate with why I agree or disagree, but, I'm not going to belittle someone because they think something the complete opposite end of the spectrum to me, because they just see it differently. And that's just how wrestling is. And that's a bit of a sneak peek for a future episode we have coming up in probably about 2 or 3 weeks' time. Yeah, that was Money in the Bank. Shall we move on to last week's A.E.W Dynamite?
Yeah, I know you really enjoyed it.
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
It was.
I think. Well, I think we'll get onto that in the next segment. But yeah, let's cover Dynamite. We're coming off of Forbidden Door, which I thought was an okay show. It's fine. Again, I just thought there was too many matches that I didn't really invest in.
Yeah, it was long.
Yeah.
A slog, but there were some brilliant matches.
Yeah, I think what I did invest in was very good. And you can always
Yeah.
rely on A.E.W to give you the best in-ring product. I think that's a fair comparison. But yeah, Dynamite came from the Wintrust Arena in Chicago, Illinois.
Mm.
I was expecting CM Punk chants. We didn't get as many, which is always nice.
No, yeah, that's good.
So I think we started with Renee Paquette backstage with Danny Garcia and Daddy Magic. I love Daddy Magic. He's
Father
great.
Sorcery.
Father Sorcery. He is fantastic. He's got the same energy as kind of a Hank and Tank in NXT. Love those guys. But yeah, obviously both of those guys were going to be key coming into the end of the show. So Garcia was facing Will Ospreay in the main event for the international title. And Garcia said he respected Will Ospreay, but he promised on his mother's life that he isn't losing that match tonight. And I like when they do that kind of thing because that's really personal.
Yeah.
And it just adds a layer of character to the character per se. And then MJF walked into picture. He had some encouraging words for Garcia, and Garcia said he wanted to ask MJF about Wembley, and MJF kind of hurried him along and said, just focus on your match. And then MJF said, you know, can I be in your corner tonight? To which Garcia fist bumped and said, I'll see you out there. And then we had a little kind of face off with Matt Menard, Daddy Magic. And he said to MJF, I thought you were full of it, but after everything you've done for Danny Garcia, you're all right with me. And he shook hands. So at the moment, all is well between Camp Garcia and Camp MJF.
For now.
I thought it was a really good opening. I thought it really kind of built intrigue for the main event, which I don't think has happened enough recently, but it really kind of made me look forward to the main event. There was a lot that I think could happen. I was fantasy booking in my brain all these different outcomes, and it just kind of made me more excited for what was already going to be a great match.
Yeah, 100%.
What did you think? Anything else you spotted in that opening segment?
No, not that you've not already covered. Yeah, I thought Danny's promo was really, really good. He is just improving week on week, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a star. You know, wherever he goes, he might end up going elsewhere. I think his contract's coming up at some point, but I think most people expect him to stay, and I think he should kind of build on his foundation a little bit, especially if he's getting airtime with the likes of MJF and Will Ospreay, then that can hopefully only be a good thing.
Having a good time, yeah, definitely.
What do we have next?
So the first match, Brian and Pac.
Oh yes,
in the
Owen Hart.
Yeah, I mean, technical, strikey, high flyy, what you'd expect from these guys.
Yeah, I mean, you're at the point where you'd be disappointed if it wasn't an amazing match between these two.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Yeah, I loved it.
Lack of a better word. They're clearly going with this whole Brian neck thing. Are they? Don't know if they're sort of trying to sell it to maybe, or is he going to retire early? Or what? But every match it's neck.
It's it has been uncomfortable viewing at times.
Yeah.
Just because Danielson is just so good at making it look real. But I like as long as he's not hurt, I like it. That's basically my take on it.
Yeah, hope not. But yeah, some brutal spots like the top rope brainbuster.
Oh God, yeah, it always makes me cringe in a good way. Again, it's one of those. I hope he's not dead.
Yeah, please
if he's not dead, that was awesome. But yeah, it's something that you can only really get in AEW these days, isn't it? when it comes
Yeah.
to American wrestling.
Yeah, they're certainly more, say, lax with the dangerous moves.
Yeah, I'd say they're a bit more, a bit braver from a producing standpoint in terms of
Yeah, certainly.
the spots they produce. Yeah, there's a bit more leniency and a bit more variety, I'd say. But they obviously that does come with great risk. Thankfully, there's not been too many failed attempts at this so far. I mean, I'm fine with it because it looks spectacular a lot of the time. But yeah, as long as everyone's safe, I'm all good with it.
Yeah, same. Looks like they know, well, Brian and Pac, they know what they're doing, don't they?
Yeah, veterans.
Okay. Next was a Willow promo before her match with Statlander in the women's Owen.
Yep.
And as you said before, best women's promo in wrestling. Willow.
I honestly think she is. Yeah, I think she's so real, so believable. She's great in the ring. She's got a great look.
Yeah,
The
I
way
really like her moveset.
yeah, and the way she talks is not forced at all. It's really genuine.
Yeah.
Just doesn't feel like she's on camera. Yeah, I think she's got so much upside.
Yeah, totally. And I'm a big Statlander fan as well.
Yeah,
Have been since she joined. She's been really good. But I think both of them doing great work at the moment.
yep. And I think we're gonna. I mean, I'm hoping they get something at All In. I think it's been one of those feuds that's been going on a while. There's some story there with the betrayal, former friends.
Hope it's something like a street fight or something.
Yeah, a good
Yeah.
old fashioned London street fight.
Well, the A.E.W women in street fights tend to pull it out of the bag massively.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I think they do. A nice Wembley way street fight, something like that.
yeah, sounds good to me.
Oh, we should also mention, by the way, that Bryan Danielson did beat Pac in the
Yeah,
in the
the old
semi-final.
crucifix pin. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry
the
about
old crucifix pin. So we had the that was a Willow Nightingale promo, wasn't it?
that. Yeah, so it was a Willow promo, and then we had Briscoe in ring
Mark Briscoe.
again, the ROH champion on A.E.W.
Yeah.
Not really doing anything with the ROH title.
No, and I had to get out my Mark Briscoe translator for Mark Briscoe promos.
I mean, we should probably leave going into that till a little bit later when we're talking about the state of things, but he declares for Team A.E.W. at Blood and Guts in a very Mark Briscoe way.
Yeah.
Um,
It was a bit puzzling for me. I think, yeah, the Mark Briscoe, I think, is a fine wrestler. Obviously, he's very charismatic. But I think, yeah, like you say, we'll get on to more of it in the next one of our segments. But I was a bit puzzled by this, but we'll get into that a bit later on. But Mark Briscoe is the first person to declare for Blood and Guts for Team A.E.W.
Yeah, which causes Jack Perry to attack him from behind with the belt, a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Bit of back and forth. Carl tries to save Mark.
It's Kyle O'Reilly, is it?
Yeah, Kyle O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Kicks Jack Perry into a corner, and then from out of shot, you have Okada come from behind.
Yep.
To hit a Rainmaker, a really good looking Rainmaker on Kyle O'Reilly.
Yep.
So, looking like maybe Kyle O'Reilly also on Team A.E.W.
Yeah, and we also had the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn sprint to the ring as well, and
the Bucks came down.
Yeah.
After the Okada Rainmaker sort of sauntered down to the ring, and they're all sort of standing there holding up their titles, and then the Acclaim come down. And run off the Elite.
Yeah, and I think I mean, I'll say it now. If Team A.E.W. is Kyle O'Reilly, Mark Briscoe, and the Acclaimed, I'm not sold on that at all.
It's looking that way.
It just does.
And then
it just does. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, then you got Bucks, Okada, and Perry, So it's that classic on both sides. Who's the fifth man?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it doesn't fill me with excitement, and
No.
this is one of the very few, if not the only things I wasn't really a fan of on this show. I hope there's something a bit more substantial. I mean, blood and guts matches are, blood and guts matches. They're kind of a yearly
Yeah,
staple now, so they happen because it's July and they have to get something in. It's very much like, Hell in a Cell was back in the old days.
I
It's
do
a
like the matches. Like,
Yeah,
it'll be a decent match, but yeah, I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head anyway who'd be on Team AEW. Everyone seems to be a bit busy right now.
yeah, which is a good thing.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's again just not filling me with too much. Ooh, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and we'll go into it in a bit more detail a bit later on. But yeah, that was Mark Briscoe. He was the only one who declared. We will say that. We can only
Yeah,
assume based on who appeared, who might be in Team AEW, but they might not be at all. So we'll find out
maybe
next
not.
week. Maybe not. Next up, I've got Renee Paquette again, backstage with Tony Storm, timeless Tony Storm, with Mariah
Timeless.
May and Luther the Butler,
Yeah,
who
Renee doesn't
has
get to talk much.
no Luther the Butler, who is, I think, killing it in his role as the Butler.
Yeah,
I think he's been very entertaining without having to do or say hardly anything at all. Yeah, great stuff all around with this gimmick. Renee asked
yeah,
Renee asked Mariah May about facing Hikaru Shida this Friday on Rampage. This is not spoiler free anymore. Mariah May beat Hikaru Shida on Rampage in the semi-finals. So Tony says, "You need to remember one thing. You are Mariah May and you have me in your corner. There's not a damn thing that can stop you." Ultimately, Mariah May went on to beat Hikaru Shida. So Mariah May is in the finals of the Owen Hart Cup.
yep.
And then was it Chris versus Willow next?
It was, yeah,
Yeah. I'll let you take this one.
yeah. Great match.
Yeah.
As I said before, I love both of them in ring. Both really good, strong. So it was pretty good. There was some attempted shenanigans with Stokely,
Yeah.
putting a chain into the ring for Statlander, which ultimately backfired into Willow rolling up Statlander for the win.
Yeah. Very good match. I was expecting a Statlander win.
Yeah,
Not that I favor either one. I just thought Statlander might win, but happy Willow Nightingale won. I think as she won it last year, gives her a bit
yeah,
of sense for her to try and defend it in the final.
agreed.
I don't think she's beating Mariah May,
No,
but
it'll be an interesting match.
I think it will. Yeah, it's definitely a clash of styles for sure. So do we know when the final is?
Is it Wembley all in?
No, the winner of the
Oh,
Owen
that's
Hart Cup gets a title shot at
yeah.
Wembley.
Okay.
And when All In's their next pay-per-view, isn't it? Because they've got like a bit of a gap now.
Yeah, I
So
think so.
maybe it's at Blood and Guts, maybe. On that because Blood and Guts is like a Wednesday normal show, isn't it?
Yes, Super Show.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Like this one was Beach Break. But yeah, I think they'll probably do the final in a couple of Dynamite's time. We will be seated. I'm really looking forward to Willow versus Mariah May.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think Mariah May advances and wins in London. And I think that will cap off an excellent story between Mariah and Tony Storm. I think the story between Willow and Chris has been really good. I think Stokely's been fantastic, especially since turning heel.
Yeah, Stokely's brilliant.
Yeah,
His
he
face.
is. I just think they all work really well together.
Yeah.
And I really hope they do get like a big payoff match at Wembley. And not on the pre-show, Tony. Don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Put it midway through the card.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you. Don't want on a pre-show. Next up, we had the return of Dr. Britt Baker.
Ooh, slightly before that was a very short little segment with Jeff Jarrett being a bit emotional and Jay Lethal taking over the promo.
Oh yes, because they asked Jeff about like what it meant to be in the Owen Hart Cup, and he kind of just walked off, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I did like it because I know that there was a lot of criticism for Jeff Jarrett being in the Owen Hart Cup, because obviously Jeff Jarrett's not at the stage where he should be attempting to compete for a world title, and I get that. I also get the fact that he was obviously very close friends with Owen Hart. I guess you could argue that he wasn't in any of the previous ones where there wasn't a world title on the line, but it is what it is. Um, and I think that the way he has kind of conveyed his emotions since then has been really, really powerful.
yeah, he's in the tournament for a reason,
Yeah,
which we'll get to.
yeah, yeah. And then it was DMD.
Yes, it was.
Yes,
Let's
dentist,
see about
medical dentist. That stands for.
really.
No, it's dentist, medical dentist. I can only guess that one of the D's is dentist. Apart from that, I'm not entirely sure.
All right.
So Britt Baker returned. Now we were hoping that because they advertised Britt Baker and Mercedes segments as 2 separate segments.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, please don't do that. Please have them kind of overlap at least. And thankfully that's what we got. So
Indeed.
Britt came out, great reception from the crowd. She's been gone a very long time.
Yeah.
And we didn't know. We knew she had some injuries, etc. She gave a typical babyface "I missed you guys" promo. She talked philosophically about the past, present, and future, and she basically recapped her journey back to, being fit once again. And she said she was diagnosed with a TIA, which is also known
Yeah.
as a mini stroke, which I was completely shocked by. I had no idea. That's
Yeah.
terrifying
Damn. Out of nowhere.
for someone so young.
Definitely.
So yeah, that was pretty harrowing to hear. Obviously, we hope she's fine. We assume she's okay now because she's back and she's got the all clear for in-ring competition.
Yeah. Glad she's through it.
Yeah. And then she kind of, she told Tony Khan she needs to stay home, and Tony, being the nice guy that he is, he's always going to kind of put things like that first. I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
We can say what we like about Tony Khan, which we will in a minute. But we can all agree that Tony Khan is one of life's good guys. I don't think that's up for debate.
Yeah.
So she talks about the present. She's back. She's cleared. She talked about where she returned at Forbidden Door after Mercedes beat Stephanie Vaquer. And she said the crowd welcomed her back with DMD chants, open arms, and that she'll always be in their corner because she is one of them. And she's kind of, I think that she's kind of reinforcing there that she was there at the beginning of A.E.W and the fans were as well.
Yep. Fair point.
Yep. And she says, let's go to the future, which is motivation. She's mentions a few puns that we all possess the impulse to be elite. Speaking of elite, I have to bring this up because I heard we have a new female face of All Elite Wrestling. So she's talking about Mercedes. And she says it must be so rewarding for her to call herself that after shedding blood, sweat, and tears and building this place up from the ground up. Ouch. And CEO, she says, I'm sure she studied hard to earn those 3 letters. But we all know that the only 3 letters that matter in this company are dentist, medical dentist. This obviously, that's when we kind of knew that there was going to be the crossover segment that we'd hoped for. So this is where Mercedes pulls up in the parking lot, car park. And she's actually greeted by the Elite, isn't she?
She is.
Which I thought was quite interesting. Now, is that a deliberate kind of camera indication that she's going to be a heel? I would hope so.
Yeah, I think so.
I would hope so.
Especially after the following.
Yeah, yeah. So then I thought this was actually really well done, because basically Mercedes is obviously due to have her double championship celebration,
Yeah.
and they just kind of go and set everything up for her as if Brit's not there, and Brit's just stood there while they're kind of like placing balloons around her and
Yeah.
just setting this up as if she's not there. I thought it was quite funny.
Yeah, really good.
So Taz commented that this is really disrespectful to Britt Baker. I agree.
It was.
Mercedes comes in, says, "Did I interrupt something? It's time to celebrate with your double champion." They go back and forth, and I thought Britt did a really good job here. I thought that Britt sort of came out on top in this back and
Yes,
forth.
felt like it.
Mercedes, as much as I prefer her as a heel, I think I mentioned this last time, I just don't buy into her mic work that much. It sounds very forced and scripted. You can kind of tell that she uses a lot of taglines. She kind of uses the same tone structure in all her sentences. It just doesn't really come across as natural compared to Britt Baker.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So I think Britt kind of cut to the chase, and she goes, "I want to match it all in."
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I wrestled at the first one right here in Chicago, and I was the first female to go all in by signing the contract. I wrestled at All In last year. You broke your ass, sat in the stands. So I want to face you at All In. So obviously this match is going to be made official at some point. We've got about 6 weeks to build this.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be good, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that'll be a great match. And I think it elevates the TBS title as well. Because with all due respect to people like Julia Hart and Sky Blue, who I think are really good, I think having the name power of Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker feud for that title kind of brings it up a level.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think that will only benefit people like Julia Hart and Sky Blue in the long run.
Yeah.
But yeah, very good segment. I thought effectively done.
Yep. Very, very good.
What do we have next?
It was a segment with Osprey and Don Callis. Osprey
Yes.
basically face turning, and well, he was a face anyway, but leaving or asking to leave the Don Callis family.
Needed to be done.
Yeah. And Don lets him go.
Yep.
But I don't think it's going to be a clean parting.
No, you saw the look that Don had when he was hugging Will.
Yeah.
Typical.
The classic.
Typical evil genius look. So.
Yep.
We'll see what happens there. Hey guys.
Your favorite.
Oh man, yeah. We had Chris Jericho and the Learning Tree to the ring with a team of A.E.W security. They surrounded Taz, who was on commentary. Taz is like, "What's going on?"
So was I.
And Jericho said, "Hi guys. I wasn't on the show, so I thought I'd come and guest commentate because you know me, I've got to have my TV time. And I wanted to talk about what Hook did this past Sunday. He stole my finish, and that's an ultimate sign of disrespect, I assume, and that doesn't work for me, brother." Even worse was Taz, who was supposed to be an unbiased opinion. Instead, he was standing and clapping like a mark for Hook. And that's why I spoke to Nicholas and Matthew Jackson, because if I'm doing color commentary, I can't sit next to you because I don't trust you at all. And Matthew and Nicholas granted me this executive order that says Taz has to vacate the arena immediately. Bye, Taz! Taz obviously was ushered out of the arena as a result of this executive order. I said on Twitter that a testament to how good this show was that the Learning Tree didn't make me want to pull my eyes out through my ears.
Yeah.
It wasn't as offensive as it normally is, and I did chuckle a little bit at the whole Taz angle.
Yeah, it was really good, I thought.
Yep.
In fairness.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be fair. What's good is good and what's bad is bad. Obviously, it's only our opinion, but you can't preface every single thing with "in my opinion." So just assume it's already there.
Yeah.
Can't say I cared much for the commentary that ensued, and the
No.
um and the bizarre aftermath, which we'll talk about in a second. But this led to Cage of Agony, the Machine, Brian Cage, Toa Leona, and Bishop Khan versus Samoa Joe, Katsuyori Shibata, and Hook, who I'm actually enjoying as a trio. This match was all right. It kind of just came and went, really.
Yeah.
We're not going to go through it move by move, but I think what happened was it sort of kind of set up at the end for Jericho to be staring down the people in the ring. And then Redwood, Big Bill, and the Bad Apple, Brian Keith, blindsided them with chair shots. Brian Keith went to work on Shibata's arm, smashing it with a chair. Big Bill clocked Samoa Joe in the back with a chair. And then Big Bill delivered a massive chokeslam on Hook through the table. And
Huge.
the Learning Tree actually look quite dominant here.
Yeah.
They actually had a serious aura about them for a change. And yeah, that was the end of that. There was a bit more to come on that later on, which again I wasn't really a fan of, but we'll get to that just in a moment. I think next up was the men's Owen Hart Cup, Jeff Jarrett versus the wild card.
Yes.
No surprise who the wild card was, I'm sure you'll agree.
Yep, Hanger's back.
Hangman Adam Page with a new theme music.
Yeah.
I did enjoy his original theme music, but it was a bit too babyface, wasn't it? It was very major key. It was very kind of upbeat. So
Very horsey.
Very horsey. I can understand why they changed it, but he's back. Yeah, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. So as I said earlier, Jeff's clearly in this tournament for a reason, and that reason was to get Hangman over straight away as a vicious AF heel. I mean, he was vicious. Jeff did get some good offense in, a stroke on the apron, pretty badass. But Hangman mostly dominated. The ending was pretty savage.
Yes,
He
it was.
hits Jeff with a buckshot, which you think is probably going to be enough. And it looks like he's about to go for a cover, but instead mounts him and starts just battering him before picking him up and hitting him with a dead eye for the finish.
Love it.
Which, yeah, it was great. I mean, unnecessary, but great, but necessary.
Yeah, and I was thinking like maybe the match could have been a bit shorter just to kind of, make Jarrett a little bit less competitive. But yeah, you're right. Hangman's aggression here, especially towards the end, was really good. Obviously, there's no way he was losing this match, and he was met with Swerve's house chants frequently throughout the match as well. So yeah, Hangman wins comfortably in the end. Are we getting Hangman and Swerve at Wembley?
Possibly. Yeah.
Because we're now looking at Hangman versus Bryan Danielson next week on Dynamite in the final.
Yeah.
Which would be fantastic. Now,
it will be great.
For me personally, I would go with Hangman versus Swerve because the story is there, the heat is there, the history is there. I understand people want Bryan to win a title in A.E.W. before he retires. I don't know whether he's bothered about that, but for me personally, just because of the investment in the rivalry, I would go for Hangman and Swerve at Wembley.
Yeah, I think there is an argument sort of for Bryan to wrestle Swerve on his sort of farewell tour, maybe.
Yeah.
Tick that box, but yeah, the history and the feud is already really there with Hangman.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, we get we had Hangman versus Jay White on Collision last night. So that was the spoiler alert.
Need to watch that then.
Yep. But yeah, did exactly what I needed to do. Hangman is back as a heel. And then we had more Learning Tree.
Yeah. Very short segment.
So we had the medical team checking on Hook because he'd just been chokeslammed by a 14-foot man. And then Chris Jericho threw a fireball in Hook's face.
He is a wizard, don't you know?
He is a wizard, and it's my second least favorite Jericho gimmick combined with my least favorite Jericho gimmick. And it made me sad because I think the learning tree is silly enough as it is without adding more silliness to it. So yeah, and that was a very quick segment, and it just ended up with Hook writhing in agony on the floor because he just been had fire thrown in his face.
Yeah,
So
is what it is.
yeah, it's obviously leading to another Hook versus Jericho match, probably All In for the FTW title.
Yeah,
We know that Jericho has been on every single AEW pay-per-view has ever been, and I don't see that changing. So, and we've already had a kind of multi-man match at Forbidden Door, so I assume they're going to do a one-on-one at All In where Hook will win back the belt and, I don't know, get rid of it maybe? It's not even a recognized title, is it? It's just there.
well, they say it's not a recognised title, but it's on their website.
Yeah.
On the roster page.
I'm not sure what it means. But yeah, it's got sort of like their hardcore title, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ish.
But yeah, we'll see what happens there. We cut to Renee with a Adam Hangman Page interview where he is interrupted by the Bucks.
Yeah.
So the Bucks originally suspended Hangman from the Elite. And then they're kind of like, oh, Blood and Guts is coming up. Do you want to be our fifth man? And I'm kind of glad that Page did this because he basically said, screw you guys. I don't need you. I'm in the O and I'm going to win. That's all I care about. And then he shoves them away and walks off. So I'm glad that he's heel, but not in the Elite heel.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's going to be some repercussions as well.
Yeah, potentially. But
which he should overcome.
Yeah, it still kind of builds a bit of intrigue on who that fifth person is going to be.
Yep.
Especially on the Elite side, because now it's not Hangman. I'm not too sure, but we'll see. And then we had the main event. This was great.
Yeah, really great. Up and coming Danny versus, I mean, in with a shout at best in the world, Will Ospreay.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we've had. There's already been a lot of kind of not a lot of history, but recent history with this. We had the segment last week with MJF in the ring.
Yeah.
MJF and Will trying to kind of one up each other using Daniel Garcia. They're like kind of both trying to be his idol kind of thing.
Yeah.
Both trying to be his influence. Obviously, we had the segment at the start of the show with MJF saying, I'll be in your corner. Danny Garcia swearing on his mother's life that he'll win. And it was a nice babyface versus babyface contest. Until the end, obviously. Well, they were still both babyfaces, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
So obviously this was great in ring. Because like you said, we've got one of the best in the world, Will Ospreay, against, you say one of the best up and comers?
Yeah, I'd say so.
So we got big DDTs from Garcia, swinging net breakers. We had that spot, which I know made you laugh, Kronus, with Garcia dancing and kind of thrusting into Will's face with his hair mopped over.
Yep.
I was very sports entertained. I'm sure Vince McMahon would be very happy to see that.
Wow.
Yeah, that is good shit. And then Ospreay taunted him, offering an open shot. And then Garcia hit a side suplex. Ospreay came back with a Spanish fly. Garcia then countered a Stormbreaker, planting him on the crown of his head. And then a powerbomb to Garcia and transitioned into a Styles clash for a near fall. Always great to see a Styles clash.
Yeah, he loves putting that out.
Garcia had a front choke on Ospreay. Ospreay escaped. Garcia reversed the Oz cutter with a pile driver for a near fall. That was great.
Yep.
Fans start chanting, as they do. And then MJF, we were wondering. I mean, we sort of saw this coming. But we were never quite sure with MJF. So MJF basically tried to give Danny Garcia his Dynamite diamond ring.
Yeah.
And he encouraged him to use it. And then after a lot of hesitation, Garcia handed it back, and then lo and behold, he turned around, boom, hidden blade.
Yeah, straight
And
into it.
yeah, that was the end. I really like this. I actually didn't know how this was going to go, because I was like, do they pull the trigger and give Danny the international title and let Will just kind of sit in the main event scene from now on? Or do they have Will retain and not have him lose twice in 3 days, which ended up being the case.
Yeah.
So afterwards, Ospreay obviously consoled Garcia. Big show of respect between the two. MJF then came in, and this is when you knew something was going to happen. And he said, that was on me, had nothing to do with you, it's my fault. And then he kind of held his hands up, and MJF did his low blow that he likes to do.
Yep.
Just a swift kick in the balls. And there we basically had it. And then MJF absolutely went to town. And he put the dynamite diamond ring on his fist. He knocked Garcia out with it. Obviously drawing blood. Daddy Magic got on the apron. He decked Daddy Magic. Daddy Magic was covered in blood. And then he just beat down on Danny Garcia over and over again. He was a bloody mess. And then he basically picked him up, did a pile driver off the second turnbuckle. Christopher Daniels is screaming, why? Why? And then eventually Will Ospreay came back. And I was kind of a bit like, come on, Will, where are you? You literally just left. And that is how, well, Danny Garcia was carried out on a stretcher. I don't know when we see Danny Garcia again.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think this is confirmation that we're getting Will Ospreay and MJF are all in.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think for a show of that magnitude is the better match.
Yeah, definitely.
But a thumbs up show overall. I thought it was
really good.
And leads us nicely into our main topic of today, after an hour and 40 minutes, of the current state of A.E.W. Where do we even start with this? I think if we start with 2024,
Right.
just year to date, we're 6 months in now. I would say from my point of view, the term I would use would be consistently inconsistent for me.
Okay.
Because there's been some great stuff, like last night. Pay-per-views largely have been great. And there's been some kind of stuff that's not been so great, not made sense. And I think that's kind of been a theme probably for the last couple of years, could be 2023 as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I think the thing is that when A.E.W started 2019, 5 years ago, everything was just up. It was brand new. It was a new thing. It was just a competitor to Vince, and it was what everybody who was sick of that stuff had wanted for a long time.
Yeah.
It was the style of wrestling that we'd all wanted to see. It was with the people that we wanted to see, people that we hadn't seen for a long time. It was a very, very long, I don't want to use the term honeymoon period, but it was a boom, wasn't it?
They were riding that wave.
Yeah, it was just so exciting. And that kind of lasted a long time, a very long time. And a lot of people say A.E.W made WWE better. And I think part of that is true, but part of me says, well, WWE was still absolutely turd in 2021, like 2 years later.
Yeah.
I don't think Vince did. I don't think Vince did anything different when A.E.W started. If anything, he made it worse. Because you look at 2019 going into the pandemic, for example. It was just terrible all the way through. And it was only when, obviously, the stuff about Vince came out and there was a kind of change in the staff that we started to see some semblance. But it could be that the presence of A.E.W, was on the new staff's minds rather than Vince's mind. So I still think there's an argument to be had. So one of the things that I've noticed, so at the beginning of the year, Tony Khan, he said a couple of things. He said, he loves his catchphrases recently, we're the best, wrestle, etc.
Yeah.
He also said he wanted to restore the feeling. Now that to me indicates that the feeling had gone. and that he knew it had gone,
Yeah.
which indicates to me that he knew that what he was working on producing hadn't been as hot as it was, which I think is absolutely natural. I think
Yeah.
when we talk about tribalism in a couple of weeks, one of the main points I want to make is that there is no wrestling show in the history of wrestling that has ever or will ever be consistently good all the time,
Yeah.
or consistently bad all the time, and those ones go under. So it's very important that, you know, criticism of a product doesn't mean we don't like it. We love A.E.W. We've been watching since day one. We've watched every pay-per-view pretty much.
Yeah. Pretty sure.
Yeah. So Tony Khan said he wanted to restore the feeling, and he also said 2024 will be the 2021 of A.E.W, which basically means he's just kind of burying his last 2 years,
Pretty
because
much.
he knows and we know that 2021 was the best year for A.E.W, I think, personally.
Yeah. Banger.
I think it was the best year in wrestling for a long time, rivaling NXT Black and Gold. It was just spectacular. It was one of the best things I've ever seen. All Out 2021, probably one of my top 5 pay-per-views of all time. And that's with heavy competition from some of the great WrestleManias, etc.
Yeah.
So 2024, I think to myself, how did we get from 2021 to where we are in 2024? So I think that Tony Khan, I like Tony Khan as a person. I think he's a wonderful person. I think he's a really nice guy. I haven't been too much of a fan of the way he's conducted himself in certain situations,
Yeah.
mainly on social media. I think that a lot of the wrestling tribalism that he so-called hates has, whether deliberately or not deliberately, been instigated by him, because he has been quite inflammatory. Even when he did that public interview, basically calling out Nick Khan, which I thought was a mistake, because Nick Khan obviously took that personally. Look where we are.
Yeah.
And I think Tony is living his dream, which we can all relate to. I think, you know, if you and I had enough money and we were able to start our own wrestling federation, that would be great, wouldn't it? That would be awesome.
Completely.
It would be it's every wrestling fan's, well, not every, but it'll be most wrestling fans' dreams, and he's living that. And fair play to him. I think it's a great use of money. I think you are providing a service, and it's a great thing that A.E.W exists, and I thank him every day that he did it. But if we are going to be critiquing pro wrestling, which is what we do, I think Tony has been a bit too sensitive to criticism, to a point where it seems to be that he takes all criticism as bad faith, rather than dissecting criticism and deciding whether it's bad faith, which is just people hating for the sake of it, or people providing constructive criticism. Because if you lump it all together, then nothing's ever going to change. And I think there's a section of the fan base who are like this as well. You know, the section of the fan base who will just praise it no matter what.
Yeah.
Because they love A.E.W, and that's it. But to be fair to Tony, if all he's hearing from people is this is great because they just want to praise it and that's it, he's not going to change anything, is he? Because he's not hearing that things might not be as good as they were. So I think there's an element of that where the criticism that's been directed at A.E.W, a lot of it is unnecessary. I agree with that. And, you know, you see certain areas of social media that are dedicated to hating one company, loving one company, and that's it. Which, you know, I've got no time for, because it just doesn't make sense. It's not insightful. There's no insight. There's no reason. It's just kind of blind loyalty.
For clicks, really, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the tribalism episode as well, where people can profit off this kind of thing. So that's how I feel about 2024. Before we carry on, Kronus, how are you feeling about the current state of A.E.W, given where we were
I think it's definitely getting stronger again. As
Yeah.
you touched on, we haven't had an amazing last 2 years, given what came before it. But they made some huge signings, got Osprey, Monet, among others, this year, which you can argue, and is always argued, is that it's just inflating already swollen roster with not a lot of time for everyone.
Yeah.
But generally, 2024 I think has been good. Some epic matches. We've said before that they usually kill it on pay-per-view.
Yeah, absolutely. I think,
Yeah,
Revolution, for example, is probably one of the best pay-per-views I've ever seen. And I think their pay-per-views this year have been solid. I think Revolution was really good. I'd probably say Forbidden Door is probably the weakest for me. But I think the concept itself is probably a bit tired, much like Money in the Bank.
yeah, and they always seem to get taken the piss out of a bit, really, come Forbidden Door, with everyone sort of WWE side talking about the prohibited portal.
Yeah, it's a bit of a meme, isn't it? Doesn't help,
Yeah,
especially
no,
with WWE working with TNA now. You
yeah,
got
I
people.
like the crossover concepts. It is
Yeah,
really cool. You see wrestlers you don't normally see, if you don't already watch those promotions, obviously.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, they are getting rinsed on social media often for it.
yeah. And I think the best thing to do from Tony's point of view, I think the best thing to do with all of that is just ignore it and carry on producing great wrestling.
Yeah,
Um,
basically.
I know from a 2024 perspective, the elephant in the room is the CM Punk footage,
Oh
which
yeah,
I think we can all, well, we can't all agree on anything in pro wrestling, but I think we can all at least understand that it had a more negative impact than a positive one.
yeah. There's no need for it, really.
No. And I think it was a reaction to the interview that Punk did. And from
100%.
Punk's side, he had every right to do that interview, as everyone else has a right to do that interview. Tony Khan could have done an interview, given his side of the story. That would have been fine. But I think using it to pop a rating as part of your weekly show that other people could have benefited from that TV time when you already have a hugely bloated roster, I think was a mistake. And they obviously got a lot of flack for that from, fans all across social media.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was, I think it might have been clarified whether it was more of a Bucks decision or Tony Khan decision. I don't think it matters. I just think it was a bad idea.
yeah. It's a bad
And
decision either way.
again, just ignore it. Let Punk say what he wants. It was
Yeah,
it was unfortunate situation. It's happened. It was goddamn 10 months ago at this point.
yeah. I mean, let it go.
Like
You don't
he's
need to do the video. Even a Tony Khan Twitter meltdown would have been a bit better.
yeah.
It doesn't take time on the show.
Yeah, valuable TV time, which
Yeah,
they are trying to negotiate for more of, which we'll get onto in a minute. So yeah, I think that obviously didn't help, and it was a bit of a sour patch for a while. I think even going back last year, do you remember that when they were on the same night as NXT, and NXT got like The Undertaker and Cody Rhodes on the show
yeah,
just to kind of say screw you. But that's business, that's cutthroat business. It happens.
yep.
And then Tony Khan went on Twitter, called Shawn Michaels and Triple H bald assholes, made fun of Undertaker and John Cena for getting less than 1 million views. I just think this is all going to come back to bite you when you start to see a dip in ratings, which we are.
Yep.
So now Tony's comments look stupid because it's not looking good in the ratings department. And we are going to talk about ratings because I see people say, oh, ratings don't matter. Well, they do matter when Tony Khan says that they are the number one metric, and they do matter when you are currently negotiating a new deal. Ratings don't matter when you signed a $5 billion deal with Netflix. That's when they don't matter. So I think I think ratings at the moment are a topical discussion, especially when you look at, you know, trends and things like that. And Tony obviously sees them as a big deal because, you know, it's a metric, isn't it? It gauges popularity of the product that you produce to people and how many people consume it. And I think at the moment we're seeing a year-on-year reduction of people watching A.E.W Dynamite. Now there could be many reasons for that, but it's probably not something that you want to be seeing when you're trying to get a new TV deal from, you know, Warner Brothers. So I think it's a concern from that perspective. I think if they do get I think they will get a new deal, and I think that they'll end up eventually on the streaming side of things, like WWE. Whether they get as much money, I don't know. I would like them to go to a streaming platform on pay-per-view, mainly for the back catalog, because, you know, I want to go back and watch all the great pay-per-views from, you know, like we can with the network, for example.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that that is something, and, you know, we want A.E.W to get a new TV deal. And, you know, I'm not an expert on, you know, television communications in America. It's more of a Dave Meltzer area. But I can only imagine that, I know that Warner Brothers are in a load of debt. I can only imagine that if they are seeing Dynamite ratings go down and down and down, I can only imagine that they'll just try and lowball them and try and give you a new deal for less money. That's just how I can see it from a business point of view, assuming there are no real friends in business. So I think, you know, an example of a criticism I would give is if you are trying to get ratings higher because you're negotiating for a new deal, is having 4 learning tree segments on your show the best way to go, followed by Daniel Garcia versus Rhett Titus? Do you know what I mean? It's kind
Yeah.
of not putting your best foot forward when you really need to.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So that's just from my end of it. I mean, obviously, I don't want 4 learning tree segments on any show. I don't care if Netflix give you $1 trillion. And I don't want to see, you know, Daniel Garcia moving up through the rankings by beating absolute nobodies. Which brings us nicely on to the A.E.W ranking system.
Yeah.
What do you think of the ranking system?
It doesn't make a huge amount of sense, does it?
No, and
At the best of times.
I don't really remember it from, because apparently he brought it back this year, and it used to be a thing. I remember seeing kind of like when A.E.W started, I remember seeing the win-loss records on the nameplates.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if they were actually enforcing a ranking system. It didn't feel like it because it was much more storytelling, and it didn't feel like it was just, oh, you're top, you get a title shot.
Yeah, it was quite loose, often fit in with the stories they were telling. But they also had less titles at the time as well. So it
Yeah.
was a bit less complicated and clogged, which it is now.
Yeah.
Because you've got the men's is just one ranking, isn't it, for all titles you expect.
Yeah, and there's so many things that don't make sense with this, and we'll try and break it down. So I think a ranking system, I don't think is needed personally. And
Not really.
I get the feeling that he brought it back because we know that Tony he has eyes on social media. We know that. And we know that he books for the sickos because that's something he said recently. And I think that he was kind of bowing to social media pressure of people who wanted the rankings to come back.
Mm.
And I don't think that's the way to do it, really, because social media is an echo chamber. It's a very small amount of your audience. But
Yeah, definitely.
when you spend so much time on social media, you can kind of get this warped view that this is the overwhelming view, because if it's all you consume, you assume this is the belief, this is the way. And I wonder if he brought it back because people wanted it on social media. without
possible.
really having a plan. Because like you said, so the men's rankings are, so I thought what it was going to be was there would be a ranking for each title.
Yeah,
So the A.E.W World, like power rankings in 2K games. That's what I thought we were going to get.
yeah, exactly. It's the universe mode.
Yeah.
I play most of them. There is, you've got a ranking board, I guess, for each title.
Yeah. Each title has its own rankings with a set of superstars, and they fight amongst themselves. And then whoever's top at a pay-per-view time gets a title shot. Great.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of it's difficult. No one's saying that this is an easy thing to book, and that's why I don't think it should be done. Because I think Tony does need some help doing stuff because he does a lot. He does Dynamite, ROH, Rampage, Collision, pay-per-views. You know, he does a lot.
That's just the wrestling side.
That's just the wrestling side. You know, he's got the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's got his own analytics company. I mean, the guy doesn't sleep. He's a workhorse, and we
Fulham.
respect him for that. Fulham as well.
Yeah.
We don't like Fulham because they're another London team.
Boo.
Boo. But he does a lot, and he doesn't sleep, and we respect him for the work that he does and the work that he's done. I think, the ranking system. So it's every men's title is one ranking table, as far as we can see, and people are, and then we've got the both women's titles are one ranking table.
Yep.
We've got the tag title and the trios division. Okay, so and then we started to kind of get, so he announced this back in early in 2024, and there wasn't really too much about it. So I asked AI Jeff, who's not been featured today as much. We've been talking so much. So I asked him about the A.E.W rankings, and I said, why doesn't it work? So Jeff says that the ranking system lacks a clear set of rules and consistency. Sometimes wins and losses directly correlate with rankings. So sorry, they don't correlate with rankings, leading to confusion. For example, an open challenge for the TNT title.
Yeah.
So this started to crop up a bit. Shortly after the rankings were announced, Adam Copeland won the TNT title, announced he was doing the Cope Open. And I think the reason why the rankings are a bad idea is because you're just inviting more criticism from people who just want to criticize you.
Yeah, and if you make it easy to criticize,
exactly,
then you're going to get criticized.
Yeah. So when you introduce a ranking system and Adam Copeland says, I'm doing an open challenge, what's the first thing people are going to say? What's the first thing we said? Yeah. What's the first thing I said to you? What's happened to the rankings? And then
exactly.
I was on social media, and then I saw people saying, oh, the TNT title and TBS title, they don't apply to the rankings. I said, what? Well, why didn't, how do you know that? Tony Khan never told us that. He just said, here's some rankings, get on with it. That's it.
Yeah. They never made that canon.
And why are they featured in the graphic if they're not part of the rankings and they can just be open challenges?
Yep.
Like, I'm fine with that, but you can't just insult the intelligence of your audience and then having people just fantasy book it for you and turn it into canon. And there's this Twitter account that was set up in like 2011 called A.E.W rankings.
Right.
So it's someone who's obviously just turned their Twitter page into and this person, fair play to them, and I respect them for this. They've actually done a better job at keeping track of the rankings than A.E.W have. Because the last time we saw an updated ranking was in April.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The last time that the official A.E.W social media pages displayed an updated ranking system was in April. This person has kept track of it week on week. Now, granted, they've been quite defensive when anyone has questioned the ranking system. But this is the kind of arguments I've seen. Someone will say, you know, when Roderick Strong, when he just went back to Tony Khan and said, can I have a title shot? I'm second in the rankings. Tony Khan goes, yeah, that's fine. World title shot.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's going to draw a lot of criticism because, well, if he's second in the rankings, surely first in the rankings should get a title shot, which is Orange Cassidy, who's been first in the rankings for God knows how long, and he's not got a world title shot. And then someone said, "Oh, but he's second in the rankings, so he can make the jump." It's just at this point where I just lose all faith in it. And I looked at this rankings, and it was just after which pay-per-view was it where Serena Deeb and Toni Storm, was that Revolution or was that Dynasty? I think it was Dynasty.
I think you're right.
Or Double or Nothing, one of them.
I can't remember.
But I looked at this rankings after that pay-per-view. And it was actually updated prior to that pay-per-view happening.
Yeah.
And Serena Deeb wasn't in the top 12. And I think to myself, you can't viciously defend this ranking system by saying this person's got a title shot because they're here, when Serena Deeb wasn't in the top 12, because your argument just falls apart. And I just think it's too much. There's too much people trying to fill in the gaps, because I don't think Tony believes in this ranking system.
No.
Obviously. And I don't think he should, because it's too difficult to maintain. You're already getting loads of criticisms for not telling engaging enough stories. You're definitely not going to be able to do that with a ranking system as well.
No, it's a hard thing to make sense.
Yeah.
So, like you said earlier, it's probably better to just not. Do you think, because you said the last time they actually posted the last update for the rankings was April, 3 months ago. Do you think they're just quietly phasing it out?
Well, I thought that, yeah. And then they had the Roderick Strong thing where he mentioned the rankings on television, and Daniel Garcia last week said, "I'm working my way through the rankings so I can fight Will Ospreay." So they're kind of mentioning it on TV. And another thing I didn't like about the rankings, I'm sorry to rag on the rankings, we will get to some positive stuff, I promise. But I've been holding this in for a long time. So obviously Daniel Garcia, his journey through the rankings has been beating people that, I mean, some people might have heard of, but I've never heard of.
Yeah.
And if you class me as the average viewer, not necessarily a casual, but the average viewer who doesn't watch all the indie stuff and I don't know every single wrestler in the world. If you consider me the average fan, if I see Daniel Garcia beating Rhett Titus, for example, who he did beat in 1 minute, I don't really kind of get anything out of that personally. It doesn't impress me. That don't impress me much, as Shania Twain would say. If I wanted to see Daniel Garcia work his way through the rankings to face Will Ospreay, I'd have him beat people like Roosh. I'd have him beat Miro. I'd have him beat Orange Cassidy. I'd have him beat established figures that make me think, wow, he can beat these guys. He definitely deserves to face Will Ospreay.
Yeah. You should be, if you're moving up the rankings, you should be fighting the people above you.
Yeah. I mean, in an ideal world, he should be beating Roderick Strong.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can only assume that the ranking system at the moment is they're playing loose and fast with it. Yeah, sometimes they're going to use it, sometimes they're not. Like, I mean, Will Ospreay won a gauntlet match to face Swerve for the world title.
Yeah.
He was already number 1 in the rankings. He didn't need to win a gauntlet match because he won so many matches.
But then he's number 1 in the rankings. He was, is it the international or continental?
International title, yeah.
Which one he has, yeah. But he was that champion at that point as well.
Yeah.
So goes back to he's number 1 in the rankings, but he's a champion. So does that apply to you? It's just too much.
There's just not enough clarity on it. I think a ranking system, you could probably come up with a loose ranking system that you acknowledge at the start is loose. Because if you tell everyone at the start, here's how it's going to work. It's only going to be for these titles. If you tell everyone, then that's fine. Because everyone knows the score then. But just to say, here's a ranking system and then make it make no sense at all half the time, it's just going to invite unnecessary criticism, which we know that Tony Khan is not very receptive to at the best of times.
No.
Like, and the thing is that it shouldn't. I mean, I would never let it get in the way of a match I enjoy. I really enjoyed Mina Shirakawa against Tony Storm at Forbidden Door.
Yeah, it was great.
I really enjoyed Serena Deeb against Tony Storm at whenever it was Double or Nothing. But I don't want to have to say, well, she didn't deserve that because she wasn't in the rankings. I don't want to have that get in the way of my enjoyment. So I just say get rid of it. I think if there are a certain small number of fans who really want a ranking system, I mean, you've got to put your best foot forward and you've got to think bigger than that.
Yeah.
There are things that we all want in wrestling that aren't going to happen. Look at Dakota Kai, for example. There's that small pocket of Dakota Kai fans on social media who are begging for her to get a push and win world titles and so on. Triple H is not going to go on there and just say, okay, fine, have it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not going to do that. And we'll get on to WWE next time. And, you know, it's not all sunshines and rainbows over there either. But yeah, I just think that I think Tony's great. I think A.E.W is great. And it could be a lot worse. I think at the moment, I'm really looking forward to All In. I think, you know, there's these criticisms that A.E.W doesn't tell stories. I think they do tell stories. I just think that they could do with some more longer stretching ones that kind of go week to week to week to week, just to keep people hooked, just something.
Yeah.
Like a not necessarily a bloodline, because a bloodline is a once in a generational story that we'll probably never see again. But just more things that kind of, you know, keep you guessing, cliffhangers, week to week stuff, just something like that, just to retain people. Which I think they're not far off. They've got the talent to do it, and I think they've told amazing stories before. You look at Hangman, Kenny, MJF, CM Punk. They've done, yeah, even the Tony Storm, Mariah May story, I think, has been great. The Will Swerve story, the Hangman Swerve story. They've done it before. I think that's what frustrates a lot of people, is that they can do it, they just don't sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we're coming up to All In, which looks great. And we were talking just before recording that you can almost start to piece together the card for All In, which I think is a great compliment to A.E.W on how they're booking week to week television at the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if you can put together in 6 weeks' time what the final product's going to be, then they're doing a good job of telling you that and putting it together in a way that you can absorb quite easily. So if we were to kind of predict the All In card, and then when we get to All In, we'll see how close we are.
Yeah.
So are we both in agreement it's going to be Hangman versus Swerve in the main event?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It's looking that way.
And we're both in agreement Mariah May against Tony Storm.
Yeah.
Mercedes versus Britt Baker.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's 3 titles. What about MJF versus Will Ospreay?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Heading in that direction, especially with the MJF heel turn.
Yep. I think it's a big match for a big location, big event. Stadium Stampede, Team Elite versus X people, probably.
Yeah.
Even though we've done Anarchy in the Arena, we're doing Blood and Guts, and then we're going to do Stadium Stampede. I mean,
bit of an outside shout.
Yeah.
But I reckon it's likely. I don't know much about his recovery, but possible Eddie Kingston return.
Yeah, potentially. See how he's getting on.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Huge surprise pop.
Yep. I'm going to throw it out there for you.
Yeah.
Nigel McGuinness versus Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, that makes sense. McGuinness is constantly ragging on him.
Yeah, he's been cooking that up, and I think he's been cleared recently as well for in-ring competition.
Yeah. Bryan hasn't really shot back though.
No, he hasn't. But 6 weeks time,
Yeah, they've got
anything can
time.
happen. So we've got the world title, the women's title, the TBS title, the international title, TNT title. Jack Perry, what's he doing at All In? I can see him defending against somebody like a Ray Phoenix or something.
Yeah, maybe Darby Allin.
Yeah,
What he's
something
doing
like
at the
that.
moment.
Something that with a bit of continuity would be good. So somebody who's like an A.E.W original. So Darby Allin would fit the bill.
Yeah.
Um, Tag team titles, I guess. Well, I guess tag team and TNT, they wouldn't be on
Well,
the line if they're going to do a Stadium Stampede match,
yeah, I was going to say.
unless the
Yeah.
acclaimed. Well, the acclaimed are going to have a tag match against the Young Bucks at some point.
Yeah, they've got that in the bank.
Yeah, so I guess it depends. So we've got 5 or 6 matches there. Anything else that jumps out to you with what we're seeing on television at the moment?
The FTW title. Like you
Oh
said
yeah,
earlier, Hook and Jericho.
yeah, Jericho and Hook. Yep, definitely see that happening, and it won't be on the pre-show, unfortunately.
Did you say Willow Statlander?
Yeah, I'd like to see Willow Statlander street fight.
Yeah.
So that's what, 7 matches.
Yeah.
So only 14 more to go, and we've got a AEW pay-per-view. So yeah, 7 matches. I reckon they'll do 2 on the pre-show, maybe 2 more on the main card. So like 9, 11, 12 matches in total.
The trios titles. There's not much going on in
Who are the trios
X division.
champions? Is it the Bang Bang Gang?
Yeah, it is.
The Bang Bang Gang.
Like the 9 belts, whatever it is.
Yeah, I reckon it will be them against the Patriarchy.
Ah, yeah. Christian did say.
Yeah, where House of Black fit in, I don't know. Maybe that'll be like a lead up to.
Oh, 3-way, 3-man.
Oh God,
9-man.
yeah, 9-man trios match. Would that work? Ladder match, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that could be chaos. But yeah, trios titles. What else do we have? I think that's about it, isn't it?
Covered all the titles for sure.
Yeah, so that's basically 10 matches, and then you'll probably have like an all-star match, like a 4-on-4, maybe.
Yeah.
FTR, if they're back. You got to think of other British talent they've got, because he likes to, host people in their home.
Soraya.
Yeah. Outcast, maybe do something on the pre-show, please.
Yeah, I think it probably will be.
So yeah, I think we've done 11 matches there. So I'll make a note of these after.
Yeah.
Pin it to my wall, and then when All In comes in, which should be it'll probably be totally different to what we've picked, but
see what Jeff thinks as well.
Yeah, well, ask Jeff what he thinks at some point. I haven't asked him yet. I've asked him some other things though.
Yeah.
So I said to Jeff, Jeff, what do you think A.E.W can do to improve things in general? So he said compelling storylines focusing on week-to-week narratives, engaging longer-term storylines. Fans tune in for captivating narratives, so investing in well-crafted plots can possibly retain more viewers, which I think makes sense.
Yeah, fair point.
He says improving across all divisions, which has been done to an extent, including the women's division, but this is crucial to maintain. A well-rounded roster that is not too bloated, with diverse talent used on a regular basis and a rotated basis, can attract a broader audience. I think that's a big point, because that kind of ties in with the bloated roster.
Yeah. Well, you've got Ricochet and Dijak potentially heading that way.
Yeah, and I love those guys.
Yeah.
But I don't really kind of want to see them, go to A.E.W, smash it for a couple of weeks, and then you kind of just see them crop up every now and then.
Yeah.
I don't think that works for anyone. The viewer, the talent. Obviously, Tony's going to pay for them and not use them, so it's going to affect his wallet. I mean, it works for the talent from a monetary perspective, because they get in the bag, which they should. But no, I think Dijak in particular, because I was very I was gutted that Dijak didn't re-sign with WWE. Not because I want him to stay with WWE, but I thought when he got called up to Raw, he was going to be an integral part of Monday Night Raw, because Monday Night Raw's roster It's got like, Braun Breaker, Ilya Dragunov, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus. You had Dijak in there as well. It's going to be, the hard hitting show.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I thought if Dijak can get a regular spot on Raw, that'd be great because he's fantastic. So I was sad to see that they didn't resign him. I do hope that wherever he goes, he A, makes a lot of money, and B, gets the television time he deserves.
Yeah, somewhere just let him cook.
Yeah, whether it's A.E.W or TNA. I mean, A.E.W might sign him and push him to the moon for all we know. That'll be great. But there's a lot of people that they, in theory, should be pushing to the moon with the roster they've got. But Jeff also says, avoid repetition, steer clear of repetitive storyline arcs and filler episodes. Consistently delivering fresh content will keep people engaged. I think the filler episodes has probably been something I've noticed more recently. When you have kind of you get to the night, it goes, oh, tonight we've got Ray Phoenix versus the Butcher. It's like, okay, cool, great match, fine. But for me, where's it going? Like,
yeah,
and I get there are
something.
Yeah, I get there is an audience that prefers the work rate and just wants to watch good matches. That's fine, but that is the small. I would say that's the smaller portion of the audience because people have grown up with WWE for 30 years, and the reason WWE's got such a big audience is because A, they were the only show in town, and B, people got into it because it was storyline mixed with wrestling.
Yeah.
So that's what people still, on the whole, want to get into. So I think with filler episodes, like last week's episode, I think was a prime example, like a blueprint of what AEW should just do going forward.
Yeah, and they've got the talent and resources.
Yep.
Put shows on like that every week.
Yeah, and they've got great production. The commentary I think is cool.
Yeah.
The talent might be the greatest roster ever assembled.
Yeah, totally.
And I think they've addressed. They had a lot of criticisms about the women's division. I think that's been completely put to bed. I think the women's division has been much better with the booking as well, which that's the hard part because the wrestlers can put on great matches, but it's up to you as the booker to make it make sense. And that's where Tony comes in because Tony can take all the praise he wants to pay-per-views, but it's the talent who are going out there and wrestling. It's the week-to-week television and the storylines that falls on Tony, and I think he's done a great job of that in the women's division recently. What else has Jeff said? So I've said, what suggestions would you give to improve the creative process? He says, taking more time in investing in character development, understanding motivations, portraying these on screen, backstories, unique traits, callbacks, well-defined characters resonate with fans more. So I think let's use Danny Garcia as an example. There's an opportunity here with Danny Garcia, and I think they've done great so far to really kind of evolve him. When he comes back, he can, reference his past, where he came from, kind of give him a bit of an edge, kind of really flesh it out kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good one. He's gone on to say longer term planning, story arcs with multiple stages and clear endpoints, avoid abrupt changes or dropped storylines. I think this is probably the biggest criticism I've got.
Yeah, I mean, WWE are guilty of it as well.
Absolutely. I have been for a long time. I think this is more of a criticism, I think, for the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
I think it probably stands out a bit more in AEW at the moment, just because, WWE's riding a wave of momentum at the moment. So it probably seems like it's more of an issue in AEW. I think it was last year, 2023. I think it was a big problem in 2023. Largely due to injuries, because they did have a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
But, when needs must, you got to adapt. And sometimes I just think they couldn't adapt properly.
Yeah, it's tough to 100% that every time.
Yeah. He's also says, diversify the creative team. Different viewpoints lead to richer storytelling. Consider hiring more writers with varied backgrounds. And he did that recently. He hired Jennifer Pepperman, who I think used to write Mercedes or Sasha Banks storylines in WWE. We obviously don't know everyone he hires, but I would hope that he is kind of, for his benefit, taking a load off himself. And obviously having a more, but obviously we don't know how much creative control goes into the talent versus Tony. So, for example, Mercedes Moné in that interview said she had creative control. Now, we don't know if she meant creative input and it was just a misstep, or is she completely in control of what happens to her on TV? Brother, exactly. So that is something that I think needs to be considered from Tony's point of view, because Tony's the boss. Tony should be the one who says, this is what happens. I've liaised with all my creative writers. This is what we're going to do. I'm happy to take your input for some ideas. We'll come to a mutual conclusion. Fine. I hope that is the case. The last thing from Jeff was audience feedback. Listen to fan feedback, surveys, live events, provide valuable insights, adjust creative direction based on audience reaction, and also consider constructive criticism. Creativity thrives when there's a balance between structure and spontaneity. A.E.W can ultimately evolve by embracing some of these principles. So I think Jeff's been pretty fair there in terms of what he thinks.
Yeah.
I think they are, obviously, I don't think anything we've said is in bad faith. I don't think anything we've said is ultimately unfair.
It's not meant to disparage. It's meant to...
No. We're big fans of A.E.W. We want it to succeed. And like I said, everything is our opinion. Your opinion might be different. It probably is. That's fine. That's just the way it goes. We just wanted to do a podcast because we love pro wrestling and we love talking about pro wrestling. And, if we loved everything, then we'd probably just be couch potatoes. We just absorb everything without any kind of critical thinking. I mean, my career is in analysis. So it's in my kind of nature. And that's why I'm a big kind of, not a big ratings guy, but, numbers over time interest me because it's what I do in my career. But yeah, that is, I think, all we're going to do on the A.E.W deep dive.
All right.
If you've got any more thoughts in the comments, let us know.
Yeah, please.
We'd love to hear what you think. We'd love to hear how you think A.E.W could improve, whether it needs to improve. And the next episode we do will be the exact same as we've done now, but on WWE. And we're not going to go easy on them either. We are going to look at pre-Triple H times. I think we're probably just going to... We're going to have... Obviously, we've got a lot more material with WWE to look back on. So we're going to do some comparisons to, New Generation, Attitude, Ruthless Aggression, and whatever the hell came after that. That was pretty horrible to watch.
The era, the PG.
Yeah, the PG era and where we are now. So we'll be talking about that on the next episode, probably coming later in the week. But I think AI Jeff, he came in late today, but I think he's provided some good stuff. And I've also asked him to sing us a song.
Hey.
So let me share this one with you, Kronus. So
Okay.
I want me and Kronus to listen to this while you guys listen to it as well. So I will try and remain
my first time hearing it.
Yes. So it's a song about it's basically a song about Tony Khan that doesn't make any sense. So without further ado, AI Jeff, take it away.
Tony Khan, the cosmic llama, wrestling's wizard, banana drama. He books matches on a roller coaster, where turnbuckles are made of toasters. His promos, pure gibberish. Talking pandas, interdimensional fish. He once signed a contract with a quokka.
I don't know what a quokka is.
Match with a sock
I think it's an
named
Australian
Baka.
animal.
Tony Khan, the time-traveling chef, serves up suplexes with a side of mischief. His finishing move, the spaghetti slam, where opponents get tangled in linguine and ham.
Nice.
He wears a fedora made of moon cheese, and his entrance music, synchronized sneezes. Tony Khan's dream match against a sentient chair in a no-holds-barred battle for the cosmic lair. He once declared, "I'm the Sultan of Socks," and challenged Vince McMahon to a game of hopscotch. His wrestling ring, a giant inflatable duck, where wrestlers bounce around yelling good luck. Tony Khan, the parallel universe champ, defends his title against invisible lamps. His finishing move, the quantum quack, where opponents vanish into a black hole snack. Backstage segments, he debates with gummy bears about the meaning of life and the price of chairs. His favorite wrestler, a sentient baguette who cuts promos in French and does a mean pirouette.
Incredible.
Tony Khan, the chaos conductor, with ladder matches with sentient sedans. His finishing move, the
What the hell, man?
challenge patch, where opponents sprout carrots and do the moonwalk. So here's to Tony Khan, the enigma supreme, where logic takes a vacation and dreams run wild in a stream. He's the CEO of silliness, the maestro of mayhem. And in his wrestling universe, everything's a gem.
That was AI Jeff with Tony Khan.
Wow.
That was incredible. Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you very much, you guys, for listening. Thank you, Kronus.
Thank you.
I will see you later on in the week. Take care, guys.
Cheers.